Good morning to you watching Newsroom. Yeah, my name, of course, Eben Jansen. Myself and Elvis Preslin, we're flying solo today. Elvis.
We're flying completely solo, Eben, but what's the way to go, you know? We got to do it. This year, it's 2017.
There we go. Today we focus, the focus falls on, political parties in KwaZulu-Natal who've called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's horrific crash in which 4 pupils were killed on the first day of school. So our question of the day, we're asking you, should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads here in South Africa? Yes, it's a serious question. We cannot have our young people at risk on their way to school, Elvis.
On the way to school, and remember the fatality numbers came out the day before, and 1,712 people already died, and this will add to that number, and we need to really watch out. So we want to know from you, what do you make of that, and what about the scholar patrol? Are they really, these vehicles that they travel in, are they safe? That's the question we pose to you.
Also, we're running a poll, of course, on the 8 municipalities that will have the electricity supply interrupted by Eskom if they do not pay the power utility from the 19th of this month. That is next week. So our poll, as soon as it's up, you can go and vote for it. What do you think? Should Eskom cut electricity supply to defaulting municipalities? We'll talk to all the stakeholders in the food chain about exactly that today, Elvis.
And we'll also go to Kimberley, one of the municipalities that's going to be cut. So we want to find out from them, what are they doing about it? These are some of the stories coming up. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. The Road Traffic Management Corporation has appointed investigators after 4 school children were killed in a road crash in Ntunzuma outside Durban on their way to the first day of school. In another accident, 6 people died when a taxi collided with a police car on the N4 in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga. And water restrictions are to remain in place here in Gauteng until May this year. This comes despite several days of heavy downpours over large parts of the country. Now, those are all your headlines. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Eben what's happening on the sports front.
Yeah, very good morning once again. If you've just joined us, of course, Johannesburg, South Africa. It's all about golf here in the big city today. Despite the absence of Brandon Gray, Saul Schwartzel and Louis Oosthuizen, this year's South African Open consists of a very strong field. 5 major winners, including current world number 2, Rory McIlroy, will be teeing it up at Glentower. Then the South African cricket team, they're eyeing a clean sweep in the 3-match series against Sri Lanka. Of course, that game starts in a short while at the Wanderers here in Johannesburg as well. Well, those are the sports stories to look out for today. But let's get a complete news update from Elvis.
Thank you, Eben. Top story this morning. Political parties in KwaZulu-Natal have called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's crash in which 4 pupils were killed on the first day of school. The Road Traffic Management Corporation has meanwhile been appointed to investigate the accident. The 4 children were killed and 17 others injured when a minibus and a bus collided in Ntunzuma outside Durban.
The first day of school is a special day for many. But sadly, for 4 pupils, their school journey cut short tragically. A shocking sight. Onlookers left reeling.
We ran to the taxi. The children had been flung out on impact. We tried to help the one, but sadly the other 3 had died.
As news of the horror crash spread, concerned parents arrived on scene. Nkosinathi Mjwacha's worst fears confirmed. His 16-year-old daughter Tapsile amongst the dead. And his son, who was meant to start grade 8, is critical.
It's beyond painful. They asked me to take them to school, but I was in the bath. Maybe this would not have happened.
The 14-seater vehicle was carrying 21 passengers. Government says the accident could have been avoided.
It could have been prevented if our drivers are respecting their passengers, if our drivers are respecting the rules of the road.
The local taxi association admits the driver was in the wrong.
The law must take its course, but also as an association, we will have to take a decision about him. But the chances are slim that he will ever work for us again.
The driver of the minibus was treated on the scene and escorted by police as community members were baying for his blood. no charges have been laid against him yet. Ayanda Mhlongo, SABC News, Ntuzuma.
And of course, we're asking you that question in relation to that horrific crash that has seen these school children die on their first day to school. And we're asking you, should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads? That's the question we pose to you. Please let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. Now, in another fatal crash, 6 people died when a taxi collided with a police car on the N4 in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga yesterday. 8 others were critically injured. The taxi was traveling from Mozambique to Johannesburg when the accident happened. It's believed the taxi driver lost control of the vehicle and then collided with a police van. The taxi overturned, killing passengers on the impact, including the driver of the taxi. The police officers escaped unscathed. Injured passengers have been taken to hospital.
6 people died on the spot and 8 are seriously injured and they are taken to hospital in Middelburg. According to the information we are having, it seems as if they were driving in a high speed, and when they were disturbed, they couldn't control the Kumbi.
So we're asking you again, let us know. Should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads? On that Facebook page, as well as the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. On to the Water and Sanitation Department now, who says that some Gauteng municipalities are failing to comply with the 15% water restriction imposed on the province. The restrictions were implemented late last year, but since then, widespread rains have improved the dam levels. The integrated Vaal River system, which consists of 14 dams, is currently 58.3% full. The department says that if the Vaal system reaches a level of 70%, restrictions may be lifted.
Cautiously optimistic, the marginal increase in water levels is a step in the right direction as the country seeks to cope with the effects of the devastating drought. Nationally, dam water levels are at 50.7%.
All provinces have had a slight increase in the dam levels, with the exception of the Western Cape, which is still falling. It's exciting, but you must temper that excitement because we're far from being over with restrictions.
In Gauteng, there's a 15% water usage restriction for households and a 20% restriction for businesses. Most seem to be abiding by the rule. But the message is still clear. Save water, or our taps could quite possibly run dry.
The issue of the water restrictions will remain with us for a while. What we are going to do is actually have a review of the status of the water restrictions around May, which will then indicate to us exactly what we can do about those water restrictions.
The Vaal Dam is one of 14 dams that supply water to Gauteng. The Vaal water dam level is at about 52%. It's increased by about 100 million cubic meters since the 2nd of January. But this is still not enough to remove the water restrictions. It still needs a safety level of more rainfall to reach about 70%. Nozindomi Mia, SABC News, the Vaal Dam.
The African National Congress has argued against the notion of an established tradition which dictates that the party's deputy president automatically ascends to power when the incumbent retires. The party was reacting to the succession debates causing divisions, despite calls by the president for unity during the January 8th statement.
Calls for unity, the clarion call of the ANC's 105th anniversary celebrations over the weekend. However, questions are being raised about unity holding. ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe rebutted a list making rounds in some media, purporting to belong to Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa's slate for the elective conference in December. He also dismissed the so-called succession tradition in the party.
I want us to move out of this narrative of a tradition that does not exist in reality. Okay? But once you have a deputy and you elect somebody else, you ask yourself difficult questions. is this deputy not competent enough to be the successor?
He says the ANC needs to hold a debate on the reasons why a deputy president should not be regarded competent enough to ascend to the top position. Mantashe also reacted to the Women's League nominating Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to succeed Zuma, despite calls by the ANC for the structures to refrain from making such pronouncements.
There will be people in the ANC who are attracted to thrive in chaos and divisions. Our duty as the structure of the ANC is to ensure that those people must be pushed to the periphery and play according to the rules of the organization.
The ANC will take the message of unity to the provinces, starting with President Zuma visiting Limpopo next week. Montlengani Dipuku, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The African National Congress needs to modernize and restructure itself to be able to deal with the challenges it faces as a governing party in a democratic society. Speaking earlier on Morning Live, political analyst Ralph Mateja had this to say.
The problems that the ANC is encountering, they are not unique. 105 years old, the bigger part of that history is when the party was the liberation movement. It's only 22 years when the party has been in government. So I think what needs to happen is the modernization of the ANC. How do you modernize the ANC so that it can cope and deal with conflict resolution among its members and also within the society in which it presides in a modern democracy? You cannot keep on resorting to the old history as a way to deal with the current problem. For me, that's fine. They've got a great history. They can talk about OR Tambo and so forth. They can talk about those principles. But what they need to do is to be realistic and understand that the type of cadres that they attract today, it is the cadre that emerge from a market society, a competitive cadre who doesn't want to be held back, a personally ambitious cadre. But when you look into the institutions, the structures and the internal system of the party, they do not cater for that. They still talk about people having to be quiet, not talk about leadership and all that. In this day and age, I think that is unrealistic. The party needs to shift away from that nostalgia and reinstitute itself, restructure itself internally in a way that they can deal with these modern challenges. And for me, what they're experiencing, nothing unique. It has been seen all over the world. It has been seen in the post-Soviet and so forth. They just need to understand that they can actually deal with this.
Tshwane Mayor Solly Msimanga says that the recent negative reaction by the African National Congress and the Department of International Relations to his trip to Taipei in Taiwan last December is a manufactured outrage. Addressing the media in Pretoria yesterday, Msimanga says he traveled on a diplomatic passport and arrangements were communicated with the Department of International Relations. Msimanga's trip was condemned by both the Chinese and the South African government. The People's Republic of China, through its One China policy, regards Taiwan as a renegade province and part of mainland China. The ANC has slammed Msimanga and the Democratic Alliance and accused them of running a parallel government with its own foreign policy. But Msimanga has denied this.
Nothing to do with the One China policy. It has everything to do with a city-to-city visit and us learning how administration in another city seems to run. And might I say, a world-class city. How they're doing things, how they're running the administration, how public transport is working, how health facilities are being taken at a municipal level, how they're ensuring that safety and security is the core part of everything that they do in the city.
Well, that's your news for now, with Solly Msimanga ending that report there. And as the question some ask, is this perhaps a storm in a Chinese teacup? Well, we'll keep you up to speed with that story. But it seems there's a dark year ahead for some municipalities in South Africa. Let's go over to Eben to start off that conversation.
Yeah, Elvis, before we start, let's just have a look at a poll, because it's a problem, yes, very much centred in the Northern Cape, but elsewhere in the country as well. So we're asking you, should Eskom cut electricity to defaulting municipalities immediately? Of course, the courts ruled in their favour last week. We've got 130 of you that have voted thus far. 62% say yes, cut the electricity to these municipalities. Of course, there are wide-ranging issues that we have to look at. Some of them include business and, of course, outcomes for the poor. What about those people that have paid up accounts? Now, 16 Northern Cape municipalities owe Eskom millions in unpaid debt. Eskom has served notices on 8 of these municipalities that their electricity supply will be interrupted from January the 19th if they do not pay the power utility. Dikgatlong municipality in Berkeley West owes Eskom over 40 million rand. Dikgatlong municipal manager, Mr. Khotso Muketsi, joins us from our Kimberley studios this morning to talk about this matter. Mr. Muketsi, thank you very much for being with us today here on Newsroom. You can hear me, Mr. Muketsi? Good morning, Mr. Muketsi. Can you hear me? Well, unfortunately, Mr. Muketsi can't hear me at the moment. We'll try and fix the problem quickly. While we're busy working on that, let's have a look at what is happening on social media right now. Of course, lots of hashtags that are doing the rounds this morning. The one that stands out is, of course, the hashtag Cape Town fires. Now, the region is still battling blazes that are now spreading into the Simonstown area there. Firefighters are still working tirelessly to control the situation. Masses of land and fynbos have already been destroyed, with wine farm owners in the Boerland area also very concerned. Then the Minister of Social Development, Batabile Dlamini's spokesperson, Lumka Olifant, has come under the spotlight after she posted a Facebook comment responding to claims that the minister had a drink. She used vulgar language, which was considered highly inappropriate in this forum. Lumka Olifant, that's the hashtag. Also, Wade van Niekerk has done it again. He's been nominated for the Laureus World Sport Award at Wade Dreamer. That's the top award there is. In America, President-elect Donald Trump is already in hot water. Several allegations. Last night he hosted a press conference, his first in 6 months, in which he did not admit to the Russian hack of the elections. He blamed the media for false news. This is what he had to say. Intelligence agencies should never have allowed this fake news to leak into the public. One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? That's the irony of the entire matter. He further went on. He says, Russia has never tried to use leverage over me. I have nothing to do with Russia. No deals, no loans, no nothing, he says. Of course, as you can imagine, lots of memes doing the rounds. This one comes out as Fox News and CNN were having digs at each other over Trump's statements. The hashtag to look out for, of course, is the Trump press conference, as it's become known. Of course, okay, let's have a look now at our picture of the day. Our picture of the day today comes from Nonku Ndlovu at Nonku Film, and it's captioned Grade R Classroom. Can we have a look at the picture? There we go. We have full screen. Grade R Classroom, new school in Bram Fisherville, Soweto. Excellence in education, moving South Africa forward, education ambassador. Wonderful to see brand new facilities unveiled for our young people on the first day of school. Of course, our comment of the day, well, it comes from Wade van Niekerk, the dreamer who says, honored to be nominated for the Laureus World Sports Awards. Thank you, Laureus Sport. I'm humbled by the recognition. Well, the guy deserves it. He's an absolute soldier for South African sport. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, hopefully we can go to Kimberley for that look at municipalities who owe Eskom millions in debt. Don't go away.
Health Talk unpacks healthy tips to help you to practice healthy living lifestyles.
Now, generally, type 1 is found mostly in children and young adults, and with type 2 diabetes is found mainly in the older generation, and also with an issue of obesity.
Don't have second portions, and then I've brought this plate model to show that for both meals, your lunch, your dinner, half a plate should be vegetables.
Within sports, we see the spectrum itself. Most often we see minor head contact injuries, we call them.
Right.
But certainly in sports, the one that a lot of attention is paid to is concussion.
You see, you've got something, boom, but it's uncontrolled. Whereas in soccer, when the guy hits the ball, it's controlled. His neck muscles are controlling it. And that's why they say, for instance, in rugby, the training should be to improve your neck strength.
For more on health, join your host Dr. Selo Motaung every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Let's go back to that top story. 16 Northern Cape municipalities owe Eskom millions in unpaid debt. Eskom has served notices on 8 of these municipalities that their electricity supply will be interrupted from next week, January 19, if they do not pay the power utility. Dikgatlong municipality in Barkly West owes Eskom over 40 million rand. The Dikgatlong municipal manager, Mr. Khotso Muketsi. Well, we saw him a little bit earlier. He can hear me now. Very good morning to you, Mr. Muketsi. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Muketsi, just tell me quickly, you've got until January the 19th to pay this 40 million rand. Are you going to pay the money?
We are now at the stage where we're engaging with Eskom to try to resolve the matter. We started our discussions with Eskom as early as November last year when they issued notices of intention to disrupt the electricity. But now we have reached a stage where we are about to find one another with Eskom. I'm confident that by the end of tomorrow we'll have reached an understanding with Eskom on how we are going to repay the debt we are owing them.
Paint the picture for us. How did we get to this situation that not just your municipality but other municipalities in the Northern Cape are in such a deep hole with Eskom?
You see, the problem is that we are a grant-dependent municipality, and we find that many of our communities, they are unable to pay for services that we render to them. So the money that we get from the community is not sufficient enough, to cover the debt that Eskom, to cover the service that Eskom render to us, because the majority of our people are indigent. The unfortunate thing is that previously, we had a situation where we could not keep up to date with regard to paying the debt because of the situation that we find ourselves in, where people are unable to pay for services.
Next week is a deadline that looms rather large. If you don't pay the monies, and it's not just yourself, if you don't pay these monies by next week, what contingencies do you have in place? And what comfort do you have for those people living in your municipality?
As a municipality, we are very positive that, like I said earlier, by tomorrow we'll have reached an understanding with Eskom on how we are going to repay the debt. It will be in the interest of both Eskom and the community, as well as the municipality, that this matter is resolved once and for all. But for us as a municipality, we want to enter into an arrangement that is both sustainable and affordable to us. And like I said, we are now engaging with them, and hopefully by tomorrow we'll have reached an understanding. But I'm quite confident that there will not be any disruptions because the discussions are progressing well with Eskom.
Give us a little bit more detail of the kind of arrangement that you are thinking of pitching to Eskom, or that you want to put forward.
Okay, firstly, we'll want to agree with Eskom that we'll pay the debt over a period of 48 months. And for the overdue account, the interest must be suspended, and then we'll, from month to month, pay the current account. And it will stick to that particular arrangement, will not default. And this is something that we must agree on with Eskom. So once we have agreed on that, I think we'll be able to deal with this particular matter. But it must be something that is affordable to the municipality.
Last week, the court ruled in Eskom's favor that you have to pay. A week later, you still say you're talking about coming to terms and agreements with Eskom and so forth, and you're confident. But the court has already ruled against you, so it sounds a little bit difficult for you.
No. We definitely agree with Judge Hans Fabricius. We have an obligation to Eskom because Eskom is rendering a service to us. We must also, on the other hand, adhere to the agreement with Eskom. So this thing, we'll need to agree that we want a win-win situation where ourselves as a municipality and Eskom agree on how we're going to resolve this particular matter. But I'm confident that come tomorrow, we'll have resolved this matter.
Now, what happens to those if this matter is not resolved? Now, you tell us you're confident. I understand your confidence that you have, but this matter could be unresolved next week. What happens if the matter is unresolved next week and power is cut and there's clear intention from Eskom to cut the power? What about essential services, for instance, hospitals?
We have advised consumers, businesses, to put mechanisms in place in an event where power will be cut. So we have been engaging with everybody, all the relevant stakeholders in this regard. So in case of hospitals, prisons and the likes, we have engaged with them to say that they must put precautionary measures in place in an event where power will be cut.
In the case of business, there's an added pressure, one of liability, which in this case you will be liable for any business losses if electricity is cut. What are you going to do in that case?
Well, it's just unfortunate that some of this big business in our area, they are also not coming to the party. But we don't want to use that now as an excuse. So we have been also advised them on how to deal with this particular issue. So in our engagement, we have agreed with them that in an event where power goes, then they will have to put other mechanisms in place so that their business carries on. But the main objective is to ensure that we resolve this matter as a matter of urgency.
What about residents? What is your message to those that are paying and have been paying their electricity bills, but by next week they could be cut as well, or they could suffer the consequences as well? What recourse do they have, and what are you telling them today?
The only thing that we can say is that we want to encourage our people to pay for services. It's just unfortunate that, the majority of our people are not paying for services. So what it means is that we need to go back to the drawing boards and ensure that our credit policy is implemented to the latter, and there should not be any interference in the implementation of that credit control. But I want to assure our communities that very soon we'll reach an understanding with Eskom. That's the message that we want to convey to them.
And what's been your discussions then with the Northern Cape local government thus far?
Yeah, we have the department, that is the provincial COCTA, provincial treasury, as well as national departments. They've been assisting in this regard, as well as SALGA. They've been trying to facilitate, as we are discussing with Eskom. It is through that facilitation of theirs that today we are engaging with Eskom. So they have been assisting as well in this whole situation.
Mr. Mukherjee, thank you very much for joining us today and being so frank in answering the difficult questions we put to you. Thank you very much. That's Khotso
Thank you very much.
He is the Dikgatlong Municipal Manager in the Northern Cape. That's Berkeley West for those of you that live there or who have driven past over the last month or so during your treks around the country. Khotso Mukherjee is the Municipal Manager. They owe Eskom around 40 million rand, but they're not the only one. There are 8 other municipalities that are deep in the hole with Eskom. So we're running a poll today to ask you the question, should Eskom just cut defaulting municipalities electricity immediately? Now, 2/3 of you, of 139 people that have voted, say yes, cut it immediately. They have to pay like everyone else, like me and you and the rest of the world. Even municipalities have to pay. You've heard well, the side of the story from the municipal manager. Let's take a look at some of your comments. This is from Rangwane Marumo. Says, a newsroom, if they don't pay, they should be cut off. And if they are not cut off, us who do pay should get a discount. That's very, very smart, actually. Very smart way to look at it. Rangwane Marumo, thank you very much for your comment. Keep it coming. We love it when you interact with us here on the Newsroom show. Of course, we're also running a question today. And the question, once again, of course, road safety is very much in focus. Yesterday, we saw more school children lose their lives on the first day of school. Yes, school children traveling to school dead. Should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off the roads completely? That's what we're asking you today. It's a serious question. It's something that we seem to be having a recurring theme on. That's the question of the day. But of course, we've got some comments coming in. Nkosana M says, Newsroom, cause of Mtuzuma accident was reckless driving. So the question should be around the matter of driving in the state of vehicles. Both of them, Mr. Nkosana, actually. It's nice to see that we have some school teachers watching us today. Ayachnatso says, Newsroom, yes, they must be taken off our roads, and all those who continue using them should be charged. Let's do it for our children's lives. Cynthia comes in and she said, Newsroom, definitely yes, they should be removed. That one from Cynthia. And Mr. Nkosana comes back with some advice. He says, it goes without saying that any unroadworthy vehicle, be it school transport or otherwise, shouldn't be on the roads. Well, Mr. Nkosana, we have many unroadworthy vehicles on our roads, and this month alone, many more have been taken off. But it seems as if our children are often in the firing line or at the effect of these unroadworthy vehicles and reckless drivers, we have to add. But today, of course, we're talking about electricity. Municipalities not paying. Well, next week, they're going to get the snip. That's according to Eskom and the courts. Let's go over to Alvis for more.
Yes, thank you, Ebony. It seems like there's dark days ahead for some municipalities. The South African Local Government Association, SALGA, says that Eskom's intentions to interrupt the power supply of electricity to these defaulting municipalities from across South Africa will have a major impact. Now, for more on this, we're joined by Mohammed Lorgard, the National Program Director at SALGA. Mr. Lorgard, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
First and foremostly, explain to us the role that SALGA plays in relation to the financial stability of municipalities and the current crisis that they are facing with these municipalities.
SALGA does not have a role to play directly with the municipalities. SALGA, as you know, is the body that represents local government. We organize local government effectively. SALGA has recently done a rebranding exercise, and we've actually changed our motto from being the voice of local government to inspiring service delivery. So what SALGA normally does, although we're not involved directly, SALGA does take a keen interest and actually does provide assistance and support to municipalities from a financial management point of view. And one of the things that's been coming through very, very clearly over the last couple of years is the issue and concern around the financial health of municipalities. So the financial health and financial sustainability of municipalities is becoming a cause of concern. So much so that even the Auditor General in his general report, when he reports on an annual basis, has also started flagging instances where the issue of financial health of municipalities is either a concern or either fair or either, in between, if you want to call it that way. So those are issues that have been flagged.
What are the contributing factors to the financial instability and that the municipalities are facing?
Okay, it's a number of factors. One of them is basically, and let's look at electricity specifically, yes, because that's the discussion we're going to be having, right? So when you look at the whole issue of the electricity distribution and the whole sale and receipt of money of electricity, municipalities buy electricity in bulk from Eskom, they then sell it on to consumers. The challenge many municipalities face is that two things. The one thing is consumers who are able to pay and should be paying, in many cases, are not paying them on time. So that has an impact on the cash flow. The other element is in many municipalities, you have a large proportion of the community which are indigent. And now from an indigent point of view, indigent communities get a free basic service amount. They get a free component of electricity per month, and they don't pay for that. And what should happen is technically municipalities should get enough funding to cover the cost of that indigent free basic service that have been provided. However, what we've picked up from a SAGA perspective is in some cases the funding they do get from National Treasury isn't sufficient to cover the amount of indigent population that they have to provide those free services.
What about in the case of some municipalities where the residents are paying, but the municipalities are not paying their dues to ESCOM?
Okay. We've actually done an exercise where we looked at those municipalities who owe ESCOM quite large amounts of money. So what happens in many of those cases is you have a proportion of the municipality residents who are paying, but there's also quite a few of them who aren't paying. That's one issue. The other issue that also maybe exacerbates the situation a little bit is that, and maybe just to give an example, a municipality may buy 100 megawatts of electricity from ESCOM, but for whatever reason, the infrastructure may sometimes have leakages in there. And of that, they may lose a certain percentage, so they're only able to sell perhaps maybe 70% of that onto the customers. And in terms of what they've sold, they may only recover maybe 80% of that in terms of actual cash from the customers. So that all of those things have an impact in terms of the municipality as well. So those are things that contribute to that. So I'm saying that there may be cases, and it's something I must be very careful about saying, is that there may be cases where there are municipalities who are able to pay ESCOM, but because they are not doing the right thing, they aren't paying ESCOM. But in most of the cases that we've actually investigated, the situation is the municipality fundamentally and institutionally, they aren't able to pay ESCOM.
How are you as SALGA then going to assist these municipalities, as your focus is on local government for that matter? Because I heard in our previous interview that the gentleman was mentioning that there's intervention from SALGA.
So what we are doing from a SALGA perspective specifically is, and we've been trying to get this message out there, we don't think cutting the municipalities is the right thing to do. It will be a very short-term measure. It will probably force them to enter into a payment agreement like the previous municipality was talking about, where they will commit to pay ESCOM. But one of the things we are saying is, fundamentally, some of these municipalities, and throughout the country, there's approximately 40 of them, who owe ESCOM quite a large amount of money. And also, it's also important to put context to this. A lot of the amounts that are being quoted come through from a number of years.
So it's not just current.
So it's just not current. So it's historical arrear debt as well as current debt. Now, the historical arrear debt also has a large proportion of interest that's been charged over there as well and has been levied by ESCOM. So what SALGA wants to then do is to say that we need to deal with this matter holistically, and we need to find a way that we're going to be able to remedy it once and for all. So the one point is very clear from our point of view, to say that from an accountability point of view, ESCOM and any other creditor that a municipality incurs money on has to fulfill those obligations. It's just the right thing to do. However, if you look at, for example, the supply of electricity, which is one of the major functions of a municipality, if fundamentally and structurally the municipality's situation is in terms of a revenue base, in terms of the infrastructure, conditions, etc., if those things indicate that even though you can put all interventions in place, but on a monthly basis, and maybe if you look at it over a period of a year as well, whatever you're going to do is not going to be able to rectify the situation where they're going to be able to pay ESCOM. We need to take that decision and say, ESCOM, we've done the analysis at this municipality, and actually what we've picked up is there is going to be no way that the historical debt may be able to be paid. However, maybe going forward, we can make sure that the current is being paid. And we need to get to that point. Because otherwise what's going to happen is there may be a payment agreement entered into now where ESCOM
which they can't even pay.
Exactly. And in a couple of months down the line, we're going to have the same situation where ESCOM is threatening to cut them off again.
So your proposal is then what as SALGA, and how do you propose to solve this issue?
So what we propose to do is we want to get all the main stakeholders around the table. So ESCOM, NERSA, Treasury, COCTA, the Department of Public Enterprises, and possibly even the presidency as well. And say, let's just look at that population of municipalities who are owing you the bulk of money, and then let's do a detailed analysis at each of them and come back to ESCOM and say, ESCOM, based on this due diligence that we've done, the following municipalities can pay you, and we then need to get a commitment from them that they will pay over a period of time. The following municipalities cannot pay you the arrear debt, and then we need to then find a way to say, as a government, how do we then deal with that? And that's what we're wanting to then propose.
SANCO has called for these municipalities, defaulting municipalities, to put under administration. How will that help the municipality, or even ESCOM for that matter, and the residents who are at the end of the stick?
Okay. When it comes to the issue of putting municipalities under administration, I think the legislation is very clear in terms of the process that needs to be followed. So owing ESCOM and being in arrears with ESCOM isn't by default indication that you must go into administration. So what we're saying is, yes, we hear SANCO. However, what we're saying is that the normal legislation must follow its course. So obviously, there's a process that needs to be followed. And if those processes indicate that the municipality needs to go under administration, then they should. Having said that, municipalities under administration, there's a mixed bag, if you want to put it that way, in terms of the results that have come out. Some of them have actually improved.
Yes.
Many of them have stayed the same. Some of them have also regressed. So administration isn't also a silver bullet. So, it's there in legislation. And I think as long as the criteria is met in terms of following what needs to be done, SALGA supports it. I mean, we're not saying that, yes, because you're in ESCOM, you must go. No. That's
there are essential services which is at stake here, as well as businesses in these communities, which will probably sue some of these municipalities. Your thoughts on that?
That's going to be, unfortunately, a very negative consequence of this whole thing. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm saying ESCOM shouldn't cut. Because when you cut, you can't decide that you're cutting Mohammed or Elvis, whoever it is. You decide when you cut the whole municipal area.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you're going to have businesses and essential services that are going to be impacted.
Will this be resolved before the 19th?
We've actually, at the moment, in the process of actually engaging with ESCOM directly to request them to postpone the cutting off, subject to us having this big overall stakeholder meeting, and we're hoping that they will respond positively to our request.
Mr. Lorgat, I thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Thanks so much.
Now, that was Mohammed Lorgat, the National Program Director at SALGA, and hopefully there might be some light at the end of this very dark tunnel. Also, we're asking you that question in our poll, of course. Should these municipalities be cut? Let us know what's on your mind. That's the question of the day. That relates to the unroadworthy taxis and school transport, but on the poll, we're asking you a question in relation to the municipalities. You can participate in that poll. You can also send us a tweet. But we'll take a short break, and I'll be right back after that.
Africa becomes the new business frontier, bursting with opportunity and hope. With its rich natural resources and continental diversity, 11 million managers require development of executive management and business skills to unlock Africa's potential. Mancosa graduates have been driving business, entrepreneurship and innovation in Africa and the world. Mancosa. Dream it. We'll take you there.
Welcome back. You're still at Newsroom on SABC News Now. The South African National Civic Organisation, SANCO, has called on the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to place defaulting municipalities owing ESCOM under administration. This comes after the High Court in Pretoria ruled that ESCOM is within its right to cut power to consumers and municipalities who are not paying for their services. The power utility wants to recover approximately 10.2 billion rand in debt from 8 defaulting municipalities. Now, in our Cape Town studios, we are joined by the South African National Civic Organisation spokesperson, Mr. Jabu Mahlangu. A very good morning to you, Mr. Mahlangu. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, sir.
Why do you believe, Mr. Mahlangu, placing municipalities under administration is a good idea?
Well, there's history to this matter. I think it's been quite some time, could be last year or year before last, where ESCOM had actually raised the issue that because of the debts by municipalities, they were planning to cut them off. As SANCO, we knew that such a decision or action would actually be very detrimental for a range of clients of ESCOM, be it the poor, be it schools, be it hospitals, be it the very delivery of services, water. If electricity were to go, actually it's going to be chaos behind the
the cut. So our view at the time was that Eskom should look at other options, see how they strengthen their credit management between themselves and the municipalities. We called on municipalities to enter into agreements with Eskom and indicate as to how and when are they going to settle it. And we've also been saying to our communities, please honor your commitments to municipalities and pay. Now, in view of the recent court decision and Eskom contemplating to cut the services, we felt as SANCO that indeed we are left with no option but to call on COGTA as well as Treasury to intervene in terms of the Section 139 of the Constitution, where they take over the responsibility, not the whole municipality, zoom into the area of finance, look at whether indeed those municipalities do not get revenue. If they not, what is the problem with their credit system? And how do we make sure that there's honoring by municipalities to the debts with Eskom? And because Eskom also has got a responsibility to its creditors. So there's a whole chain that needs to be resolved. And our view as SANCO is that we have been asking municipalities to do that. And if there is no movement from municipalities, surely you should then resort to other measures. We know that Section 126 of the Constitution does, give an obligation to provinces or Treasury to assist municipalities. But beyond assistance, if there's no assistance, you go to a higher measure of assistance, that of taking over and cleaning the system and make sure that the necessary credit systems are in place and there is, and that municipalities honor their obligations to the creditors.
Administration, that's one thing. Thank you for talking to us about that. Cutting off electricity to people living in these municipalities is something completely different. That deadline is the 19th, which is next week. What's your message to those people that have paid their electricity up until now, the businesses that are up to date and have paid their dues, but they're facing severe setbacks next week?
Well, if I had paid my debts to municipality, I have utensils in my house. I have fridges. I've got whatever services that I'm dependent on Eskom, I've paid. I have recourse. So there's going to be a lot of lawsuits between residences that have honored their obligation to Eskom and, to municipalities, and those municipalities to lead to a situation where people get cut off. So it's going to be quite a big chaos, and that's why in our view, the intervention is something that could actually help stabilize the situation, because I just don't want to see a situation where people die in clinic and hospitals because electricity has been cut. People get involved in accidents because robots are not working. People get sick because water cannot be cleaned and water cannot be supplied. And remember, water is a constitutional obligation. Municipalities have got a constitutional obligation to supply people with water. There is a myriad of problems that are going to unfold owing to the cutting of electricity. And municipalities would be in worse situation than they are, where you have to settle your debt. So once the things are cut, and there's litigation, it's actually going to be worse than anything else we've seen before.
In conclusion, we are here, we've traveled here by some way. How did we get here? Who's responsible for this debt crisis that we have in South Africa?
Well, municipalities should take the flag. If you have a contract with me as a consumer, and I am not paying, you have a right to cut me off, and which they do. So municipalities should invoke their authority and power, and as much as Eskom should also get what is due to him or her. And if municipalities don't own up, Eskom has an obligation to take action. Eskom has an obligation to funding agencies. If he doesn't pay, he gets downgraded, but also they can take legal actions against him. So let's clean the system. Let's make sure that we don't get that. There are many irregularities that could be there. The gentleman that was talking earlier on from SALGA says that there is a leakage of about 20 or 30% from supply before they grant the services to come in. Why do we have that leakage? Because if we can close that leakage, we have saved. So in other words, we know the problem, but why are we not acting on it? If there's a leakage, where is the leak? Is the leak between Eskom and municipalities or municipalities and the clients? Go deal with the leakage. If there is, people who are contravening the supply arrangement, reconnecting illegally, municipalities must act on those people.
Mr. Matlangu, we've run out of time, unfortunately.
Consequences for clients.
Sorry to cut your word there, so I apologize, but we've run out of time. You're right. Next week, we'll see what comes out the woodwork with the leakages that you're talking about. Hopefully, we can speak again, and the news will be a little bit more positive for the people who'll be affected. Thank you very much. That's Jabu Matlangu. He is the spokesperson for the South African National Civics Organization, coming to you live from our Cape Town studios. We've been running this poll since the start of the show. We've been asking you, should Eskom just cut the electricity supply to defaulting municipalities? The poll has been updated. Let's have a look at where we are now. Should Eskom just cut electricity to defaulting municipalities immediately? 62% of you say yes, of 145 votes that we have in right now. 62% of you say yes, just cut it. Let's have a look at some of the tweets on this question. Tozama Sikise says, yes, disconnect those municipalities and give them prepaid electricity like us. I don't think it's as simple as that. Siafana Zuleshoe says, yebo yes, Newsroom, cut it. Rangwana Marume says, if they don't pay, they should be cut off, and if they are not cut off, us who do pay should get a discount. Yes, I like the way you think. It's all business. Anyhow, we're also asking you a question. Of course, more of our school children have died on the way to school, so we put up this question that you see on screen right now. Should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off the roads? Personally, if you had to ask me, I say we should make a point of taking them off the roads. But that's my view. Let's have a look at your views. Shazi says, Newsroom, all unroadworthy cars must be removed from the road. This can save most of the lives of road users. Yes, often it's the brakes that fail, or this that breaks, or... Nati says, they must be taken off. We are losing too many kids on the roads because of this unroadworthy transport, he says. This one from Ramekwa. He says, Newsroom, yes, they must be taken off our roads for the safety of the children. Back to school. Yes, we don't want to see children dying on their way to school. H. Nazo says, Newsroom, yes, they must be taken off our roads, and all those who continue using them should be charged. Let's do it for our children's lives. Yep, on point. Nkosana says, Newsroom, goes without saying that any unroadworthy vehicle, be it school transport or otherwise, shouldn't be on the roads. Thank you very much. Keep it coming. We love to interact with you. We love to hear your views, because ultimately it is you that make the country great. Let's go next to the weather. Looks like there might be a little bit of rain in store heading into the weekend. Phil Hawkins is here to give us an update.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at that weather. First of all, let's take a look at our rainfall for today, and of course we're expecting a lot of it, especially throughout the Mozambican far northeastern coastlines. That extends into parts of Zambia, parts of Malawi as well. Widespread showers and thunder showers forecast for these areas. Here in South Africa, we're also expecting showers and thunder showers. Of course, this is mainly over the central interior. They're moving towards the eastern interior as well. And in fact, the South African Weather Service has issued a weather watch, and that's for severe thunderstorms over the interior of KZN. So some thunderstorms coming in there, going to have to watch out, especially if you're on the roads. By tomorrow, we're going to see that continuing. We're going to still see showers and thinner showers in South Africa's northeastern interior there. High pressure systems coming in, though, are going to mitigate the effects of these low pressure systems, at least towards its southwest. We should see a clear day there. Continuing showers and thunder showers all the way throughout southern Africa's central regions and Central Africa's southern regions. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail what's going on here. Uppington peaks at 35 degrees. You can see the rainfall continuing all the way through that central region of the country, at least isolated showers here all the way towards PE. 25 degrees Celsius there. Warm temperatures throughout most of the country for today, despite some low pressure systems coming in. And as we said, widespread showers and thunder showers coming in towards that northeastern coastline of Mozambique. And of course, that comes over Harare as well, 25 degrees Celsius here. So not particularly warm. And that's largely the result of that rainfall and largely the result of dense cloud cover in the area as well. Windhoek peaks in the high 20s and early 30s. Moving north, we're going to see that continuing. Warm temperatures in Luanda, 29 degrees, and moving north again, seeing showers and thunder showers dominant over the area. But we're not seeing those showers making it towards the northern parts here, just north of Lilongwe, towards Dar es Salaam and the surrounding areas. Really not much rainfall, if any whatsoever. In fact, even cloud cover here is absent. Seeing Juba at 38 degrees, Kampala 26. And of course, here we move into the northern hemisphere. This is where we're seeing winter. And winter temperatures are going to come in, of course. We'll take a look at that in a second. First of all, high pressure systems interacting with the low pressure systems here, going to cause a little bit of cloud cover and possibly a little bit of rain in the interior of Algeria. But going to see largely clear conditions for the most part coming in there. As that high pressure system intensifies, it will get rid of this rainfall here in Algeria, though we're going to see a clear day into tomorrow. Showers and thunder showers continuing over some parts of West Africa too. In the northeast, well, here's what we're seeing. Luxor peaks at 25 degrees. Temperatures not particularly warm over the northern coastlines here, of course, in the higher teens. And this, of course, is the result of those low pressure systems. Winter conditions and winter temperatures definitely to be expected for today as well as tomorrow. And well, the rest of the winter season, really. 15 degrees in Tunis, no rainfall there. And as we said, no rainfall along the coastlines as yet. And that's the result of that high pressure system towards the southern coastlines of West Africa. Abidjan peaks at about 30 degrees. Those southern coastlines expecting at least isolated showers for the most part. This is where we're going to leave your weather for now. But don't hesitate to contact us at weather@sabc.co.za. Otherwise, give us a call. 011 714 5077 is the number. That's where we leave it for now. Have yourself a great day.
Police found powerful military explosives when they swooped on a house in Springs on the Gauteng.
Some of the weapons seized at this house included rocket-propelled grenades, rifles, and even rounds of ammunition.
All military explosives that we found that you cannot obtain a commission.
The weapons found at the house not only had the potential to cause major damage to property, but they also put many lives at risk.
I could have lost any one of my family members, or most of my family members.
SABC News, on point with news around the world. Live transmissions to keep you informed. When history unfolds, we are there.
At which Clinton and her supporters painted an optimistic portrait of America. Statues of the woman who led the march to the Union buildings in Pretoria in 1956 have been unveiled against the walls of the State Theatre in Pretoria. Sophie de Bruyn, Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph and Rahima Musa led 20,000 other women to the Union buildings against the Dompasas in 1956.
It is for the youth to take the baton that we have already handed over to them.
What has happened to South Africa? Kutheni my postcards.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
So people with prosthesis can live normal life.
Prosthesis actually manufactures the artificial limbs.
I can pick up stuff. My friends think it's awesome. I like my railway.
I can walk normally. There's nothing that I can do. It changed my life from the beginning to where I am now.
Dystrophic dysplasia is a type of dwarfism that affected all my major limbs.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
Welcome back. You're with myself, Evan Janssen, and Elvis Preslin here on the Newsroom show. Elvis will be here until midday today.
Until midday, we'll be here and bring you the latest news and updates from around the globe as well here at home.
Yeah, of course, our focus today is on political parties in KwaZulu-Natal. They've called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's horrific crash in which 4 pupils were killed on their way to the first day of school. Horrific. So we ask you that question, Elvis, and there's lots of tweets coming in.
Lots of tweets around that question. Should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads? That's the question we pose to you. Better see what you have got to say about that.
Where are the tweets?
Are there any tweets? Yep. No, there's no tweets. But we're also running a poll, and that relates to the defaulting municipalities that we have in the country. Eskom wants to cut them off. We're asking you that question. Should Eskom cut electricity to these defaulting municipalities immediately? Well, there you have the numbers on your screen right now. 62% are saying yes, they should be cut off. Do the snip. 38% are saying no, they should not be cut off. There's still 145 votes in, 22 hours left for you to vote, so keep them coming.
Yeah, there's some tweets coming in. People have sent us into this one from Kabiso Ntuli. Says, Newsroom, municipalities are taking us for a ride. Why they are not paying?
That is the question.
We've got Figili Bili here. He'll tell us just now why they're not paying.
Tozama says, yes, disconnect those municipalities and give them prepaid electricity like us. Is that the answer? That's the question. We've seen that here in Soweto. They've destroyed some of those prepaid electricity meters.
If only the technology was possible that you could give prepaid to an entire municipality, I'm sure it would be done. Yeah, but yes, says Shafana. Those are your tweets on our poll today. Keep it coming, keep voting. Tell us what you think. It kind of gives us an idea where we are in South Africa today. Lots of news happening, lots of sport in the offing today. Let's go to Elvis for our update.
The Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, has appointed investigators after 4 school children were killed in a road crash in Ntunzuma outside Durban on their way to their very first day of school. And in another accident, 6 people died when a taxi collided with a police car on the N4 in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga. And water restrictions are to remain in place here in Gauteng until May this year. Now, this comes despite several days of heavy downpours over large parts of the country. And people say that we have so much rain, but we have still drought in the country. Those are your headlines. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Eben what's happening on the sports field.
Well, I can tell you now that South Africa, they've won the toss and they've elected to bat. Yes, Faf du Plessis, he's called correctly again at the crease. We've got Stephen Cook and Dean Elgar. It's the first over. South Africa they haven't got a run on the board yet, but they've just won the toss. They've elected to bat. It's going to be a difficult first couple of hours for the South African batsmen on what looks to be quite a lively wicket at the bull ring at the Wanderers here in Johannesburg. That's Suranga Lakmal. He's the guy taking the new ball for the Sri Lankans, hoping to amp up the pressure on South Africa's opening batsman. I'll give you another update in about half an hour's time from now. I can also tell you that Rory McIlroy has started playing at the South African Open here in Joburg at Glendower. Massive galleries following him. We'll try and get some of those pictures through a little bit later, but let's go back to Elvis for more news.
Thank you, Eben. Top story now this morning. Political parties in KwaZulu-Natal have called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's horrific crash in which 4 pupils were killed on the first day of school. The Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, has meanwhile been appointed to investigate the accident. The 4 children were killed and 17 others injured when a minibus and a bus collided in Nzuma outside Durban.
The first day of school is a special day for many, but sadly for 4 pupils, their school journey cut short tragically. A shocking sight. Onlookers left reeling.
We ran to the taxi. The children had been flung out on impact. We tried to help the one, but sadly the other 3 had died.
As news of the horror crash spread, concerned parents arrived on scene. Kosnati Mjwacha's worst fears confirmed. His 16-year-old daughter Tapsile amongst the dead, and his son, who was meant to start grade 8, is critical.
It's beyond painful. They asked me to take them to school, but I was in the bath. Maybe this would not have happened.
The 14-seater vehicle was carrying 21 passengers. Government says the accident could have been avoided.
It could have been prevented if our drivers are respecting their passengers, if our drivers are respecting the rules of the road.
The local taxi association admits the driver was in the wrong.
The law must take its course, but also as an association, we will have to take a decision about him. But the chances are slim that he will ever work for us again.
The driver of the minibus was treated on the scene and escorted by police as community members were baying for his blood. No charges have been laid against him yet. Ayanda Mhlongo, SABC News, Newsroom.
In another accident, 6 people died when a taxi collided with a police car on the N4 in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga yesterday. 8 others were critically injured. The taxi was traveling from Mozambique to Johannesburg when the accident happened. It's believed the taxi driver lost control of the vehicle, then collided with a police van. The taxi overturned, killing passengers on impact, including the driver of the taxi. The police officers escaped unscathed. Injured passengers have been taken to hospital.
6 people died on the spot and 8 are seriously injured and they are taken to hospital in Middelburg. According to the information we are having, it seems as if they were driving in a high speed, and when they were disturbed, they couldn't control the Kumbi.
Now, based on these horrific crashes, as well as the school children that died on their first day to school, we're asking you that question on your screen right now. Should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads? That's the question we pose to you. Let's take a look at what you have to say on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page in terms of that. We'll come back to some of those comments in a short while. Meanwhile, the Higher Education and Training Minister, Bladen Nzimande, says the department is working hard to improve access to institutions of higher learning. Nzimande was addressing the media in Pretoria this morning about the department's readiness for the 2017 academic year.
Ladies and gentlemen, a tremendous amount of progress has been made, particularly with regards to expanding access to the poor through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, which has funded, since it started, over 1.7 million students since 1994. In 2016, NSFAS supported approximately 480,000 poor undergraduate students to access universities and TVET colleges. In 2016, NSFAS also disbursed loans and bursaries totaling 14 billion rand. During the medium-term budget policy statement, government announced that it will provide an additional 9 billion rand for NSFAS over the next 3-year period, raising its funding by over 18% to universities over the next 3 years to assist poor and missing middle students. Most commendably, NSFAS will be funding 205,000 first-time entering and continuing eligible students at universities and 200,000 students at TVET colleges in 2017 by providing student loans and bursaries totaling 15.2 billion rand. You will also have seen a number of interventions that have been announced to assist students who come from poor and working class families. Let me put this in simple language. This year, academic year in 2017, NSFAS students won't be paying any fee increase.
Well, there you have it with your news for now, but remember that we're focusing on the electricity supply that will be cut to some municipalities. So we're asking you that question on the poll, and should Eskom cut the electricity supply to these defaulting municipalities? Let's take a look at that poll and see how many people is on there right now and how many say that it should be cut. 61% of you are saying yes, it should be cut, and 39% saying no, they should not snip the municipalities. 151 votes in, 21 hours left. You can still get on board. But right now, let's continue that discussion, and it's over to Eben.
Yeah, Elvis, thank you very much. Eskom will commence cutting power to defaulting municipalities in Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and the Free State from the 19th of January. That's next week. But what could be the options available to Eskom and municipalities to collect outstanding costs now? For more on this, we have Fikile Bili, who is the CEO of Zandile Management Services, a man who's an expert in the field of collection. Very good morning to you, Fikile. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Eben. Good morning to your viewers.
Fikile, just give me a quick overview. What you have experience with municipalities, municipal managers, and the like. You've done some exposés on corruption within municipalities and so forth. Tell me, should Eskom go ahead on the 19th next week, should they go ahead and cut those municipalities who have outstanding debt?
Okay, in the past I used to say they must cut. Now I say no. Reason being, Eskom don't understand the dynamics at municipal level. For example, I'll make an example. I just happen to be in a municipality in the Northern Cape called Keiharib local municipality, which owes Eskom money. But for the fact that I say Eskom don't understand the dynamics, I came across a new mayor in that municipality called Marius Low. He's a young mayor who happens to be working with a matured, experienced municipal manager, Gilbert Lattegang. Every time they are in the townships and suburbs and farmers trying to understand why are people not paying. That's basically what we need. Because at the end of the day, if Eskom don't get money and if Eskom cut, politicians, their heads will be cut off. But the problem is not with politicians, it's with administrators. What municipalities need to do is to have a conference with Eskom and come and discuss what are the challenges. Because currently, municipalities need to do indigent verification. Because there are people who are registered fraudulently, wrongly as indigent. All to find out, municipalities must do meter auditing because people have bypassed electricity. And there are those big corporations that are bypassing electricity, and then the municipality has a usage, but they've got less billing. The billing system is also incorrect. So what I'm saying, let's just go back to basics and try to understand the dynamics. What are the challenges facing municipalities?
Talk about those challenges a little bit. Talk to us about the role of things like maladministration and corruption. You say the politicians are not to blame. The administrators are to blame. How?
Look, let me make an example. I know of one guy which I'm very disappointed personally that the Northwest government could not remove. He's acting as a CFO with a matric certificate. He was the revenue manager.
Is this Titsobotla?
Obviously.
Yeah, Titsobotla is the one that's been in the
South Africa's number one leading municipality in corruption. They cannot pay Eskom. What happens there is the revenue manager, who happens to be the acting CFO, writes off debt of prominent business people, including locals. Now, what happens in the process? Now, those people, they put them in a report as indigents and give it to council. Like I said, councillors are not in charge. Councillors are not in charge to make sure that people pay is the administrators. And then they take kickbacks from prominent companies. I mean, the guy just built a double-story house. He owns a fleet of cars. But now they couldn't pay salaries. They had to ask a service provider to give them money for salaries. Politicians are not at fault. These administrators, they've got connections. And I'm challenging Salga and Kokta to clear these municipalities, because municipalities are the pride of the people. Can you imagine now if you go and cut off electricity now, how many people are on life support? How many people will need electricity? So at the end of the day, I'm saying to ESCOM, stop it now. Let's have a discussion around the challenges, because the smart meters are wrong. People are bypassing electricity.
We started today's show by talking to Dick Hadlong, municipality, Berkeley West in the Northern Cape. And they say their problem is that the people are poor and the people can't afford to pay them. Talk to us about the indigent phenomenon and how this really fits together.
I work in municipalities in the Northern Cape. Well, how do you know that people are poor? You must do indigent verification. You must do a lifestyle audit.
Yeah.
How do you become poor but you've got a dish at your house? How do you become poor but you stay in an upmarket renovated house? That's wrong. You don't just... It's those people who are putting politicians in trouble by going around, failing to do their work and start saying our people are poor. Let's do a lifestyle audit. Eben Johnson, you can't be staying in Sent and then you say you are poor. We want to know. We need people's salary advisors. We need to do a background check on all the consumers to see. Because sometimes, Eben, you are an indigent correctly, but your son is a teacher, your daughter is a nurse. They stay at your house. There's a usage of electricity. So I am challenging ESCOM, please have a consultative conference and try to understand the dynamics. What are the causes? Sometimes municipalities are forced not to pay ESCOM because they have to roll out projects that are, they are politically under pressure from the community to render services.
Now, you're in conversation constantly with the mayors, both in most of these municipalities and provinces where we see. What are the mayors saying? Do they feel that their hands are a little bit tied in this mess and it's very difficult for them to come to terms with this problem?
No. You know what political parties need to do? As they appoint mayors as political heads, the mayor, like I said, the example between the mayor of Kegarib in Northern Cape and the municipal manager, they work together. Because they are both new, they need to turn around the municipality. All I'm asking, let the mayors be given their power to do political oversight. Let the municipal managers do the administrative part. Let the CFOs and the revenue managers do their finance part. Because tomorrow, if ESCOM cut off, the community is not going to go to the municipal manager. They are going for the mayors because they are the political heads. So at the end of the day, I am pleading with ESCOM, stop it right now. Sit down, try to understand what are the challenges. And the other debt is too old. Let me be honest with you. When we took over this country as government, some of the debt were already old. Now what happens is we've got ghost accounts in municipalities where you find Eben Johnson's got 15 properties, but you only registered one. So municipalities need to do audit and verify the properties versus the billing system. Because at the end of the day, even electricity, even if municipalities were to sell electricity, for the fact that the people are bypassing, the usage will be high, but the revenue will be less.
What do we need to do next week in order to avoid a meltdown in these municipalities?
I think we need an urgent meeting. I think the Minister of Corporate Governance needs to intervene. I think they need to call all the role players and try to understand what are the challenges. I also understand ESCOM needs the money. But the reality is we don't have renewable energy in South Africa. So we depend on ESCOM. So all I'm asking for ESCOM is to give municipality probably another 2 months, 3 months. Let's discuss it. Let's see where the challenge is. But ESCOM should also write off some of the debt because it's non-collectible. If it's non-collectible at the municipality, it's also non-collectible for ESCOM. So at the end of the day, let's try to understand as ESCOM. I just made a transaction in the Northern Cape Public Works, Kimberley, where I have spoken to Public Works the whole week. They are going to pay Gasigonyane Municipality 13 million. They are going to pay Kegarib Municipality 5 million, Ubuntu and Siatemba. So at the end of the day, also Public Works needs to receive the correct bills from municipalities. So municipalities need people with capacity in order to deal with their accounts.
Fikile, thank you for coming in and giving us a unique, interesting view into the the wheels that work within the municipalities. Of course, the 19th looms large next week. Thank you very much for joining us today. Fikile is the CEO of Zandile Management Services and an expert in collection of debt here in South Africa. Let's go back to Alvis now for more news.
Thank you, Yeben. The Water and Sanitation Department says that some Gauteng municipalities are failing to comply with the 15% water restriction imposed on the province. The restrictions were implemented late last year, but since then, widespread rains have improved dam levels. The integrated Vaal River system, which consists of 14 dams, is currently 58.3% full. The department says if the Vaal system reaches a level of 70%, restrictions may be lifted.
Cautiously optimistic, the marginal increase in water levels is a step in the right direction as the country seeks to cope with the effects of the devastating drought. Nationally, dam water levels are at 50.7%.
All provinces have had a slight increase in the dam levels, with the exception of the Western Cape, which is still falling. It's exciting, but you must temper that excitement because we're far from being over with restrictions.
In Gauteng, there's a 15% water usage restriction for households and a 20% restriction for businesses. Most seem to be abiding by the rule, but the message is still clear. Save water, or our taps could quite possibly run dry.
The issue of the water restrictions will remain with us for a while. What we are going to do is actually have a review of the status of the water restrictions around May, which will then indicate to us exactly what we can do about those water restrictions.
The Vaal Dam is one of 14 dams that supply water to Gauteng. The Vaal water dam level is at about 52%. It's increased by about 100 million cubic meters since the 2nd of January. But this is still not enough to remove the water restrictions. It still needs a safety level of more rainfall to reach about 70%. Nozindomi Mia, SABC News, the Vaal Dam.
The African National Congress has argued against the notion of an established tradition which dictates that the party's deputy president automatically ascends to power when the incumbent retires. The party was reacting to the succession debates, causing divisions, despite calls by the president for unity during the January 8th statement.
Calls for unity, the clarion call of the ANC's 105th anniversary celebrations over the weekend. However, questions are being raised about unity holding. ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe rebutted a list making rounds in some media, purporting to belong to Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa's slate for the elective conference in December. He also dismissed the so-called succession tradition in the party.
I want us to move out of this narrative of a tradition that does not exist in reality. Okay? But once you have a deputy and you elect somebody else, you ask yourself difficult questions. Is this deputy not competent enough to be the successor?
He says the ANC needs to hold a debate on the reasons why a deputy president should not be regarded competent enough to ascend to the top position. Mantashe also reacted to the Women's League nominating Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to succeed Zuma, despite calls by the ANC for the structures to refrain from making such pronouncements.
There will be people in the ANC who are attracted to thrive in chaos and divisions. Our duty as the structure of the ANC is to ensure that those people must be pushed to the periphery and play according to the rules of the organization.
The ANC will take the message of unity to the provinces, starting with President Zuma visiting Limpopo next week. Montlengani Dipuku, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, the ANC needs to modernize and restructure itself to be able to deal with the challenges it faces as a governing party in a democratic society. Speaking earlier on Morning Live, political analyst Ralph Matsecha had this to say.
The problems that the ANC is encountering, they are not unique. 105 years old, the bigger part of that history is when the party was the liberation movement. It's only 22 years when the party has been in government. So I think what needs to happen is the modernization of the ANC. How do you modernize the ANC so that it can cope and deal with conflict resolution among its members and also within the society in which it presides in a modern democracy? You cannot keep on resorting to the old history as a way to deal with the current problem. For me, that's fine. They've got a great history. They can talk about Owar Tambo and so forth. They can talk about those principles. But what they need to do is to be realistic and understand that the type of cadres that they attract today, it is the cadre that emerge from a market society, a competitive cadre who doesn't want to be held back, a personally ambitious cadre. But when you look into the institutions, the structures and the internal system of the party, they do not cater for that. They still talk about people having to be quiet, not talk about leadership and all that. In this day and age, I think that is unrealistic. The party needs to shift away from that nostalgia and reinstitute itself, restructure itself internally in a way that they can deal with these modern challenges. And for me, what they're experiencing, nothing unique. It has been seen all over the world. It has been seen in the post-Soviet and so forth. They just need to understand that they can actually deal with this.
The Pan-Africanist Congress, the PAC, member who had been behind bars for over 28 years was released on parole yesterday. Kenny Motsamai was arrested in 1989 after escaping from prison and then killing a traffic officer. Motsamai was serving a sentence for his crimes that were committed during the liberation struggle against apartheid. A large crowd gathered to celebrate Motsamai's release from Boksburg prison. Correctional Services officials are accused of sneaking out the PAC hero from the facility to avoid creating a spectacle. Motsamai has been on day parole since last year when he was released to visit his family wearing a tracking device. Now he will not be required to report back to prison at night or weekends. Motsamai has already apologized to the family of the officer he killed.
Fighters, I'm happy to be free today, even though there are comrades who are still behind bars. But what I want to say, I'm pleased and happy to see your supporters.
The EFF had made an announcement that we're going to offer permanent employment to Comrade Kenny. And once the documentation has been finalized, that documentation is also going to be submitted to the prison. Because you cannot say somebody must stay at home when he has a job somewhere.
News from further afield. Donald Trump is days away from becoming U.S. president, but Mexico is already gearing up for tough negotiations, refusing to pay for a border wall. President Enrique Peña Nieto and Trump gave a glimpse of things to come on Wednesday as the neighboring countries face a new and a very complex era in their relationship.
Welcome to San Luis Potosi, home to the Ford plant that never was. What workers remain are now charged with taking apart the plant and packing up. Contractor Fernando Rosales says everything changed when Ford decided to scrap its plans for a $1.6 billion car plant.
Now you can see that the equipment, power generators, heavy machinery are leaving and there is nobody working here. This is normally a cloud of earth, but today it is completely calm.
Ford had been planning to build small cars in Mexico to reduce labor costs, but it stopped due to what it said was a decline in North American demand. Their decision comes as President-elect Donald Trump threatens to impose new taxes on Mexican-made autos. At a rare news conference Wednesday, Trump congratulated Ford on the decision.
Ford just announced that they stopped plans for a billion-dollar plant in Mexico, and they're going to be moving into Michigan and expanding very substantially an existing plant. I appreciate that from Ford.
But back in Mexico, concerns are rumbling. The plant was expected to create thousands of jobs for the town of Villa de Reyes.
I have an uncle who was going to work at Ford. He left his other job and now he was left jobless.
Industry experts now calculate the loss to the economy could run into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Via de Reyes Town Hall Secretary Luis Miguel Espinoza regrets Ford's move.
Because of problems or aspects which don't involve the municipality, the city hall, and the state government, well, things didn't turn out as expected.
A reality that Mexico must now face as Trump prepares to get in the driver's seat of the United States.
You're fired. Goodbye.
It was bound to be an interesting debate with Donald and Hillary, him not even having bothered to prepare. So he was flying on instinct. And it didn't come across quite well. I'm starting a hashtag, medical fees must fall. There are many students who are protesting who are not necessarily violent. The students are saying the issue is how to implement, whereas the Commission's mandate is to look at feasibility.
Yeah. Among these countries, only South Africa allows same-sex marriages. Very concerning indeed, Prof.
Your sexual orientation does not demean your own humanity, doesn't make you less of a human being. That really is the essence.
Welcome back. We're staying with the issue of Eskom that want to cut electricity supply to some municipalities. Now, the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the civil rights organization AfriForum's urgent application to stop Eskom from disconnecting electricity supply to the defaulting municipalities. The power utility is, Eskom is now allowed to cut the power supply to these areas. Now, for more on this, we're joined by AfriForum's Marcus Pawson, who is the head of local government and environmental affairs at AfriForum. Marcus, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis, and thank you for having me.
Now, the court has dismissed AfriForum's application. What is the way forward now for you?
Well, we've been in discussions during this week on the possible solutions for communities in South Africa that's going to bear the brunt of this court ruling from the 5th or 6th of January. At least we could have held off Eskom cutting off the electricity not from the 5th of January, but move it to the 16th, but which is still an issue for us. And I think there are various solutions, and we are looking to each and every one of those.
In your opinion, did the municipalities did enough to avoid this particular situation where they find themselves now?
Well, not at all. I think this is an issue coming for a long way with local government, which has been failing communities in service delivery. Electricity is just one of those, and it's not. And municipalities has not given their full support or their responsibilities to pay their accounts to Eskom over the last few years, which resulted in the situation where South Africa is in currently, and Eskom giving out notices across country to municipalities who have been defaulting on their municipal accounts. And now we feel it's normal citizens paying law-abiding citizens that's going to bear the brunt of this.
But the counter-argument from some municipalities is that most of their people are indigent, so they can't really pay the money that they need to pay in order for the municipality to pay Eskom.
I think that's just a normal, easy excuse, especially if the core issue is actually inability or the unqualified administrators are sitting in our municipalities. I've heard Fikile, your previous participant, stating that the municipalities raising the issue of indigents, but rightly so, indigents should be registered, and National Treasury are giving municipalities their equitable shares based on those numbers. But we do know that municipalities do not register their indigents, and the National Treasury looks to census data to know who are the people in South Africa, what the numbers are that are unable to pay for basic services, and then they pay over that equitable shares to municipalities. And that money should have been used for services delivered, but we know that those money is in fact used either for salaries or big luxury vehicles for municipalities or parties, and it's not being used for its responsibilities, one of which is to pay Eskom its electricity bills, which those who are paying have paid over to their municipalities. So I think it's just not a good enough reason not to be in this situation and use your indigent registered indigents as an argument for not paying Eskom its bills.
Now, the flip argument, the flip side of that argument, as you just indicated, is that there are residents that do pay their dues, but the municipality does not pay that over to Eskom and pay their dues. What recourse does the residents in those particular municipalities have that have paid their dues?
Well, I think municipalities, one of which on the municipal level which are lacking is proper credit control measures. Those that are not paying must be held accountable, and the relationship between the municipality and a household which is not paying for services but are able to must be there must be credit control policies that have to apply, and councils is responsible to ensure that that happens. But I think the solutions for South Africa is what there's one of five points that I would like to highlight. One is that for AfriForum was AfriForum has wrote a letter to NASA indicating that and reminding NASA that it has a role to play, and it does have a responsibility and a competency through legislation to help municipalities accountable. In the legislation in the Electricity Regulations Act state that NASA has the ability to approach the court and revoke the licenses of municipalities who has a license to distribute electricity to its communities, but doesn't comply with the requirements of that license, to revoke the license and provide it to some other institution which would reasonably be and could easily be Eskom itself to deliver and distribute the electricity to the communities directly, which Eskom is already doing across South Africa in various areas. So it's not something new. Eskom has the infrastructure and the systems to do something like that. Meanwhile, and it gives time for government, it gives time for state to sort out its house in terms of how municipalities are functioning and the administrators and their abilities.
Are you then suggesting?
The second thing.
Are you then suggesting that the middleman, the municipality, should be cut out and Eskom should directly deal with residents?
Well, I can't think that it's a sustainable solution. Or, well, according to the Constitution and various legislation, municipalities do have, it's a function of local government actually, to distribute the electricity in South Africa to residences. And each and every area of South Africa is covered within the border of a municipality. But within the situation that we have in South Africa, where the oversight function of not only national government, also provincial government, and the legislatures, the national legislature and the provincial legislatures and the councils of local governments, the oversight function has not been properly done, and local governments were allowed to increase their debt with Eskom to the point where we are at more than 10 billion in arrears. For this situation, one of the solutions should be we can't allow the situation to carry on, and we sympathize with Eskom that it wants to have proper, responsible, good governance and financial management of its funds, that Eskom continue to, which is able, and continue to provide citizens who have paid for their electricity anyway, to provide that electricity, and giving government time to sort out its own house and get everything in order so that they can take back that responsibility which is given to them by the Constitution.
Are you blaming unqualified administrators for this mess, or who do you think should be held responsible within the municipality for this debt crisis?
Well, not only unqualified. I do blame the unqualified administrators in our municipalities, and I do blame the deployment from the governing political parties. But there's various other factors. It's not only the administrators, but it's also the political office bearers. As I mentioned, the oversight function from the various functions in our governance system that has led to this situation. So it's not only the administrators. I blame the whole system that has been allowed to escalate the debt in Eskom at the point where we now stand, where Eskom internationally has lost its credit rating to the point where it's just 1 point below not having a good credit rating internationally. And that is affecting South Africans already because we're paying more for money Eskom lends.
Yeah. Marcus, just very briefly, your solution as AfriForum to this whole scenario. You did mention that you want them to extend the cut-off line, but after that, what next?
Well, yes, one of which is we already wrote a letter to NASA to look into its capabilities according to legislation. The second is we're going to add NASA and various other government institutions and departments to the already application that we have against Eskom in this court case, and to ensure that NASA also comes with an argument to court to tell us and South Africans what it has done in the past to hold its licensees responsible who are not compliant with their licenses to distribute electricity, because NASA is also to answer on that. Thirdly, the provinces and national departments they've got responsibilities as well, either to pay that equitable shares to municipalities over directly to Eskom to pay its debt off, and the provinces should and must, according to legislation, act immediately where there's a problem in service delivery and the municipality doesn't have the funds to provide that service delivery, to send an administrator to that municipality to attend to that specific issue, and ensuring that the municipalities are financially viable and administrated correctly. And I think lastly, privatization is becoming more and more an option across South Africa, and it's a solution that we also are discussing and see if it's a possibility to privatize the electrical industry in South Africa, which has a lot of positives for South African citizens. So that's an issue that we're going to push forward. And lastly, community pressure. There are political decisions to be made. Communities must and should do petitions and write to their municipalities and have the political and administrative officers held them responsible and ensure that the decisions necessary to be taken are taken, and it is in the interest of South Africans.
Mm-hmm. Marcus, thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Pretoria studios.
Thank you.
That was Marcus Pawson. He's the chairperson, rather. He's the head of local government and environmental affairs at AfriForum. Now, it's going to be a very dark period for all the local municipalities that are in debt with Eskom. You remember those rolling blackouts, those days? Well, hello darkness, my friend. Here I am again. Let's now take a look at what's happening on our Facebook page. That's on the Facebook page. The Western Cape Education Department is expected to provide class the placement crisis in that province, and has urged parents who have still not found a school for their children to contact their local district office for assistance. A number of parents complaining that they don't have places for their children. Moving on to Kenya now, the Kenya opposition parties have unveiled a coalition to face off with the President Uhuru Kenyatta during the country's general election that is due in August. And Iraqi forces made new advances against Islamic State in Mosul and fought the militants in areas near the Tigris River yesterday. Those are some of the stories. You can find there some very interesting stories on the Facebook page. You can go there, the SABC News website. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back after that with your sports news with you.
This is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is Our Talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
My name is Mpo. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News channel.
Animation, virtual reality, and games. We have all of that and other technology and social media news.
I've got the full version of the game at home, so I play it a lot at home.
We also tell you how Africans are using tech to improve their lives.
We have to close the digital gap.
So join us on Network for your African technology and social media news. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Yeah, hello again, everybody. Time for us to take a look at what is happening in the world of sport. Of course, the South African cricket team is eyeing a clean sweep in the three-match series against Sri Lanka. Of course, the third and final test got underway in Johannesburg a short while ago. The Proteas won the first and second test of this series. They also won the toss. Now, they're batting. Let's just go there for some live pictures to have a look. It's been a slowish start, if one can call it that. 21 for no loss after 10 overs with Dean Elgar and Stephen Cook, who's playing on his home ground, trying to blunt the new ball attack of the Sri Lankans. 21 without loss. South Africa have won the toss. They've made a solid, if unspectacular start. Sri Lankans will be hoping for a consoling victory at the Bull Ring, but much rain is predicted for the rest of the week in Johannesburg, and the test is expected to be affected by rain. But let's hope that the weather stays away and that the cricket can come to an exciting conclusion sometime over the weekend. So right now, South Africa 21 without loss, Dean Elgar on 13, Stephen Cook on 8. They're in the 11th over. They're having a look at the ball. That might have to be replaced shortly. Of course, just across the N3 here in Johannesburg, there's, the BMW SA Open is taking place at the Glendower Golf Course. It started this morning with a star-studded field, 5 major winners, including world number 2 Rory McIlroy, Ernie Els, Retief Goosen, Darren Clark and Nick Faldo are a few of the names that will be battling out for the second oldest championship in the world. Let's have a look at the live scoreboard as it's coming in. Take it full screen. There you see Trevor Fisher Jr. Well, he's lighting up the Glendower Golf Club this morning. Of course, he's a native from Modderfontein, that's just down the road there. So pretty much grew up on this golf course, along with James Kamti, the forgotten man of South African golf. He's 4 under par after 15 holes. So a good start for two South African journeymen now, both of them in their 30s and hoping for a good showing here at the SA Open this week. Further down the leaderboard, it's been a solid start for Rory McIlroy. He's just dropped a shot on the 14th hole. He's now at 3 under par. He was at 4 under par. Of course, much is expected of the world number 2 here this week. He's really expected to light up the Glendower Golf Course. Other notables, Brett Rumford, South Africa's Dean Burmester, they've all made a solid start, but there's a real international flavour on the leaderboard as we speak. But South Africans, Trevor Fisher Jr. and James Kamti, I really hope that James goes well this week. He's been a little bit out of form the last year or so. So that's the tail of the tape. Trevor Fisher leading on 6 under par after 16 holes. We'll keep you updated on this channel what happens at the SA Open. Now, final preparations are underway in the main Stade d'Amitié in Gabon's capital, Libreville, as the country prepares to host the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations against a backdrop of civil strife in the host nation. The biennial tournament is made up of 16 teams played at 4 venues across 4 host cities in the oil-rich Central African countries. This year's tournament has been overshadowed by the aftermath of Gabon's disputed elections held last August that saw President Ali Bongo retain power amid allegations of widespread fraud. The vote divided the political class and the country, leading to a wave of riots there. Despite the government's reassurances that the tournament will take place without incident, there have been ongoing calls in recent months for strike action by the opposition. Now, over the weekend, Gabon is due to play Guinea-Bissau in the opening match at the Stade de la Miti. The stadium with a capacity of 40,000 will also hold the competition final on the 5th of February. South African Olympic champion and 400 meters world record holder Wade the Dreamer van Niekerk has been nominated for the prestigious Laureus World Sport Award. Van Niekerk is a nominee in the Breakthrough of the Year category at the annual awards showpiece that's set for Monaco later this year.
Victory by a huge margin.
If a breakthrough is defined as a person's first notable success, then what Wade did on the world stage last year at the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro certainly qualifies. Van Niekerk obliterated the world record in the 400 meters to announce his arrival as a force in world sprinting. Receiving a Laureus nomination further underlines his arrival on the world stage.
The world champion is the Olympic champion and the world record holder.
I always think the Laureus Breakthrough Award is one of the most intriguing to judge. You can get a fascinating mix of young talent and experienced sportsmen and women who have achieved something special. This year we have a classic lineup with some really outstanding nominees, including some unforgettable individual and team performances. The nominees are Almaz Ayana, the Fiji Rugby Sevens team, the Iceland men's football team, Leicester City Football Club, Wade van Niekerk and Nico Rosberg. Best luck to you all.
Van Niekerk faces some pretty stiff competition from other, arguably equally compelling performances. However, breaking a sprinting record that many thought would not fall for years to come must surely count for something. Simon Burke, SABC News.
Now, a massive landslide caused by thunderstorms forced the cancellation of stage 9 of the Dakar Rally in Argentina. They said the road to Tuesday's overnight Bio had been blocked 40 kilometers north of Jujuy. The landslide hit the village of Volcan and caused considerable damage. Race organisers stated that due to the road being cut off following the alternate routes would see competitors miss the start time for the stage. France's Sebastien Loeb leads while South African Janelle de Villiers is lying in 6th place in the car category for Peugeot, with British rider Sam Sunderland top of the motorcycle standings. That's where we wrap the sport. I'll be back with an interview with Jody Hendricks at 11:30. It's just over half an hour's time, but time enough for us to take a look at the weather with Phil Hawkins.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at that weather. First of all, let's take a look at our rainfall for today. And of course, we're expecting a lot of it, especially throughout the Mozambican far northeastern coastlines. That extends into parts of Zambia, parts of Malawi as well. Widespread showers and thunder showers forecast for these areas. Here in South Africa, we're also expecting showers and thunder showers. Of course, this is mainly over the central interior. They're moving towards the eastern interior as well. And in fact, the South African Weather Service has issued a weather watch, and that's for severe thunderstorms over the interior of KZN. So some thunderstorms coming in there, going to have to watch out, especially if you're on the roads. By tomorrow, we're going to see that continuing. We're going to still see showers and thunder showers in South Africa's northeastern interior there. High pressure systems coming in, though, are going to mitigate the effects of these low pressure systems, at least towards its southwest. We should see a clear day there. Continuing showers and thunder showers all the way throughout southern Africa's central regions and central Africa's southern regions. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail what's going on here. Uppington peaks at 35 degrees. You can see the rainfall continuing all the way through that central region of the country, at least isolated showers here, all the way to towards PE, 25 degrees Celsius there. Warm temperatures throughout most of the country for today, despite some low pressure systems coming in. And as we said, widespread showers and thunder showers coming in towards that northeastern coastline of Mozambique. And of course, that comes over Harare as well, 25 degrees Celsius here. So not particularly warm. And that's largely the result of that rainfall and largely the result of dense cloud cover in the area as well. Windhoek peaks in the high 20s and early 30s. Moving north, we're going to see that continuing. Warm temperatures in Luanda, 29 degrees, and moving north again, seeing showers and thunder showers dominant over the area. But we're not seeing those showers making it towards the northern parts here, just north of Lilongwe, towards Dar es Salaam and the surrounding areas. Really not much rainfall, if any whatsoever. In fact, even cloud cover here is absent. Seeing Juba at 38 degrees, Kampala 26. And of course, here we move into the northern hemisphere. This is where we're seeing winter. And winter temperatures are going to come in, of course. We'll take a look at that in a second. First of all, high pressure systems interacting with the low pressure systems here. Going to cause a little bit of cloud cover and possibly a little bit of rain in the interior of Algeria. But going to see largely clear conditions for the most part coming in there. As that high pressure system intensifies, it will get rid of this rainfall here in Algeria, though we're going to see a clear day into tomorrow. Showers and thunder showers continuing over some parts of West Africa too. In the northeast, well, here's what we're seeing. Luxor peaks at 25 degrees. Temperatures not particularly warm over the northern coastlines here, of course, in the higher teens. And this, of course, is the result of those low pressure systems. Winter conditions and winter temperatures definitely to be expected for today as well as tomorrow. And well, the rest of the winter season, really. 15 degrees in Tunis, no rainfall there. And as we said, no rainfall along the coastlines as yet. And that's the result of that high pressure system towards the southern coastlines of West Africa. Abidjan peaks at about 30 degrees. Those southern coastlines expecting at least isolated showers for the most part. This is where we're going to leave your weather for now. But don't hesitate to contact us at weather@sabc.co.za. Otherwise, give us a call. 011-714-5077 is the number. That's where we leave it for now. Have yourself a great day.
welcome back. Very good morning to you. Yeah, it's just gone 11 o'clock, Galvez, and we're heading into the final hour of the show. It's been an interesting morning, sir.
Very interesting morning, and of course, as we know, some sad news from KwaZulu-Natal, where pupils died on their way to school. The first day to school, and such a tragedy happens, Evan.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's also been the focus of what we've been doing today. The political parties in KwaZulu-Natal, they've called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's crash. Of course, four pupils were killed on the first day of school, and that's just gut-wrenching, isn't it?
Gut-wrenching. And the question we pose to you is, should all unroadworthy school transport be taken off our roads? That's the question. Let us know on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. Is there any tweets that we can refer to?
Yeah, we got a couple of tweets. Of course, people are it's a very emotive issue. We've seen lots and lots of people die on the roads. Kabiso Untuli says, these drivers don't really respect the law. They are busy overloading these taxis. Government must punish them, says Kabiso.
This one from Mr. Zeus says that the actual question here is, why are they still on the roads? Well, that's the question there from Mr. Zeus, and that's a very good question. On point, Mr. Zeus. There shouldn't be any unroadworthy vehicles on our roads.
Kabiso goes back. He says, just take them off the road. We don't need many deaths. Again, talking about the road stats, of course.
Yes.
We all saw 45, more than 45 a day dying on our roads right now. It's a scary number, and it's even more scary, obviously, is the fact that it's on the increase.
On the increase, and of course, you know, one of our analysts yesterday said it's more like a war zone. Because not even in a war zone, you have 45 people dying every day.
Single day, that is true. Of course, we're also running a poll. We've been, well, Eskom, not so much Eskom, the municipalities who are not paying their bills, been in the crosshairs so far today. So the poll we've been running is, should Eskom cut electricity to defaulting municipalities immediately? Of course, the deadline is the 19th next week.
19th next week, and 61% of you are saying yes, they should be cut. But I'm sure that 61% is not living in those areas, the municipalities that are affected. 39% are saying no, they should not be cut. Those are the guys that's going to have the problems. 158 votes in, 20 hours left. You can still participate in our poll.
Let's see what you guys are telling us on the question of cutting electricity. Norma Corsi says, yes, they must cut off until they pay back the money.
Well, there's a hashtag coming there. Kabiso comes back and says, the municipalities are taking us for a ride. Why are they not paying? Hashtag Eskom. Well, Kabiso, that's another question.
This one from Tozama. She says, yes, disconnect those municipalities and give them prepaid electricity like us. I like this one, if only it was possible. But unfortunately, it isn't possible. And, well, we'll keep you updated how things develop. We've got lots of different stakeholders. In a short while, Elvis, we'll be getting a business kind of overview of this whole thing. Be interesting to see what business is saying.
No, because the question is, how will businesses be affected? I'm running a butchery in my local municipality. My lights go off. How do I maintain my stock? And who's going to pay for that stock?
Who's going to pay me? Who's going to pay my staff? Those are legitimate questions that will be posed to Eskom and municipalities, I would think, over the next week until that deadline on the 19th. But there's a lot of other news, of course. Let's go to Elvis for our update now.
KwaZulu-Natal Health MEC Bongeseni Dlomo has confirmed that the 16 pupils injured in the crash are recovering well in hospital, while 4 learners were killed in Durban on their way to the first day of school. In another accident, 6 people died when a taxi collided with a police car on the N4 in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga. And water restrictions are to remain in place here in Gauteng until May this year. Now this comes despite several days of heavy downpours over large parts of the country, as well as here in Gauteng. Those are your news headlines, but before we get there, let's find out from Eben, what's happening on the sports front.
Not Kendall, Elvis. But yeah, it's a busy sporting weekend actually for South Africa. I think the first really busy sporting weekend of the new year. Of course, cricket's going on at the Wanderers right now. Johannesburg's the epicenter for what is happening now. I can tell you, South Africa, well, they're turning the knife. 36 without loss here. Shortly after the first hour's play is completed at the Wanderers, you can see that Dean Elgar and that one just dropped short. Lucky man. Dean Algar and Stephen Cook, well, they well on top. 36 without loss in the 13th over. Of course, there's also golf happening, and I can tell you, South Africa's Trevor Fisher Jr. is leading the SA Open after the, shortly after the morning's play. There you have him. Trevor Fisher Jr. is at 6 under par after 17, but look at that man in second place. His name is Rory McIlroy. He's one of the biggest names in the game. He's on 4 under after 15. It should be a cracking weekend's play. Dean Burmester has moved up as well. Some names to look out for: James Compty, Thomas Aitken. They're all there for the vying for the second oldest Open trophy in the game. That's the South African Open. That's where we are with the sport right now. Let's go over to Elvis for more news.
Well, thank you, Eben. And looking at that, James Compte, 3 under, very good player. Well, we'll be watching that and we'll give you some updates a little bit later on the sports front. But right now, top story this hour. Political parties in KwaZulu-Natal have called for safer scholar transport following yesterday's crash in which 4 pupils were killed on the first day of school. The Road Traffic Management Corporation has meanwhile been appointed to investigate the accident. The 4 children were killed in that accident, and the KwaZulu-Natal Health MEC, Sibongiseni Dlomo, has confirmed that the 16 pupils injured in that crash are recovering well in hospital. Dlomo praised the medical services for the assistance they gave the pupils.
The first day of school is a special day for many, but sadly for 4 pupils, their school journey cut short tragically. A shocking sight. Onlookers left reeling.
We ran to the taxi. The children had been flung out on impact. We tried to help the one, but sadly the other 3 had died.
As news of the horror crash spread, concerned parents arrived on scene. Kosnati Mjwacha's worst fears confirmed. His 16-year-old daughter Tapsile amongst the dead, and his son, who was meant to start grade 8, is critical.
It's beyond painful. They asked me to take them to school, but I was in the bath. Maybe this would not have happened.
The 14-seater vehicle was carrying 21 passengers. Government says the accident could have been avoided.
It could have been prevented if our drivers are respecting their passengers, if our drivers are respecting the rules of the road.
The local taxi association admits the driver was in the wrong.
The law must take its course, but also as an association, we will have to take a decision about him. But the chances are slim that he will ever work for us again.
The driver of the minibus was treated on the scene and escorted by police as community members were baying for his blood. No charges have been laid against him yet. Ayanda Mhlongo, SABC News, Ntuzuma.
Now, as you know, on our poll today, we're asking you, should municipalities be cut off? And of course, as you know, that's looming. Eskom is threatening to cut off these municipalities from electricity. Let's see if that poll is up, if we do have it, and see where we are with it, because that's our theme for today, focus on that and looking at what is happening around the country. But there we go. Should Eskom cut the electricity supply to the defaulting municipalities immediately? So far, 61% of you are saying yes, 39% are saying no. Let's continue with that story then. The North Gauteng High Court last week ruled that Eskom is allowed to cut power to 10 municipalities which have failed to pay the billions of rands of debt owed to the power utility. A case was brought by the civil rights group AfriForum and AfriBusiness trying to block Eskom from cutting the power to the municipality, saying that the move would be unfair to ratepayers who have been paying. In our Pretoria studios, we are joined by Stefan Pieterse, who is the AfriBusiness spokesperson. A very good morning to you, Stefan, and welcome. And can you tell us, what is your reaction from the court interdict that where you've lost?
A very good morning, and thank you for having me. Well, we live in a country that is governed by the rule of law and the principles of the rule of law. Of course, we are very unhappy with what the judge said. But that's the fact. Eskom may now do that, but it's a bad decision, and it's also bad for the economy of South Africa. Unfortunately, this will leave businesses with no other option than to privatize, which will mean less income for Eskom, But it's, at the end of the day, it's not only the ratepayers that are being penalized, it's the consumer, it's the people. And actually, this is not what the people voted for. You don't vote for a municipality who would not be able to deliver services. And it's a constitutional right to have basic municipal services. And not having that is not fair. So in this case, you see NPO or a non-profit organization like AfriBusiness and AfriForum fighting for the person on the street, whereas the courts and Eskom and the municipalities are actually throwing them for the wolves.
Now, how are business going to be affected by these power cuts, you think?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. The big companies, if I think about mine and other various big companies, they get already their electricity directly from Eskom. So in those towns where there might be mines, they are not affected by all. With concern to the smaller businesses, such as that person who spoke about, who has that butchery, and the person who has other businesses, a jewelry shop. But let's, for instance, think about state hospitals. Let's think about the local police service station. What about these places when there's not electricity or for a certain part of the day? Certainly they would not be able to function. So in reaching that decision, this is the effect, and you call that the unintended consequences now, based on that court judgment, and we already received new notices today from people in the Eastern Cape, is that Eskom will proceed to do that. They have the judgment now to do that, but surely the consumer at the end of the day and the smaller business will be adversely affected. I think for businesses who would be able to afford it, they will get generators. So here again, the bigger companies get the electricity directly from Eskom. The smaller businesses would be able to get generators. At the end of the day, it's the person at the end, the person who could not afford, and the consumer who can afford, the ratepayer, who will be penalized most.
Now we asked this question a little bit earlier because here I am, the small business with my butcher, and there goes my lights. What recourse do I have for the stock and the value that I've lost in the period that I do not trade?
Well, you certainly, if you have experienced losses, let's talk about that person who owns the butchery, and that losses is due directly to Eskom or to the municipality, surely you will have a recourse against them. But then that owner of that business will have to institute legal action. And what happens in these cases is it's very expensive at first, and secondly, it takes very long. So you do have a recourse. But it's even if you bring an application to compel either Eskom or the municipality to give you that electricity, it will only solve that one business's problem. And with this application, we try to help the whole community and not just the one or two businesses.
With this application, what are you trying to get then?
Well, the first thing that we asked for, it was that Eskom be interdicted to cut off the power of these municipalities, simply because we say there is a constitutional right that the people have to basic municipal services. According to the court, it's not enough, because if the municipality are being cut for just an hour or two, that weighs much heavier than the people's right to electricity.
Well, that's where we got to leave it, unfortunately. We got a lot more questions, Stephen, but we are running out of time. That was Stephen Petersen, the spokesperson of AfriBusiness, on the line. But as we speak right now, the Police Minister, Nathi Nhleko, together with the Acting Police Commissioner, Khomotso Paslane, is briefing the media on the outcome of safer festive season policing operations between October last year and January 2017. Let's go there live.
We've got to tackle the society. Even though the statistics will show that in these areas of conduct crimes, we've also registered quite significant sort of decreases percentage-wise and so on. However, society, ourselves, as South Africans, we still have a challenge to overcome insofar as the issue of conduct crimes is concerned. So is the abuse of alcohol, drugs, and other substances, and particularly because they tend to be variables that feature prominently in the conduct crime incidents. And in line with just on the highlights, in line with the 6 pillars, we, over the festive season, we conducted 705,639 policing operations, in which we arrested 83,479 persons. And during the same period, the period under review, we recovered 1,060 firearms with 8,691 rounds of ammunition. We also conducted 2,443,886 searches across the country. We also recovered 669 vehicles. Now, a large quantity and variety of drugs were also seized in this particular period. For an example, in the Western Cape, on the 18th of November 2016, a drug dealer was arrested with 31,000 Menrex tablets. And insofar as the issue of border security, we received very interesting sort of feedback from the northern parts of Asia, in other words, the borderline between South Africa and Mozambique, that our operations there, which were joint efforts, brought so much relief to the citizens as we reduced the incidences of car hijackings and stolen cars crossing over into Mozambique, as well as stock thefts. Despite the road, we held various operations in many parts of the country that left also a mark. Now, this particular success that we will also be running yourselves through this in this particular session is as a result of the collaborative efforts among the country's law enforcement agencies, crime intelligence, state security agency, DPCI, uniformed members of the South African Police, and others, of course, in ensuring that we had to secure our citizenry as well as visitors in our country. But also, what we seem to be getting, which is quite an interesting development as well for us as the South African Police Service, and I think for South Africa as a whole, is the role that a community member is playing in bringing to the fore most of these particular incidences of crime and working together with us as the South African Police Service. But also the work of our 5,000 members, newly recruited members of the South African Police Service that were deployed at major malls countrywide, yielded quite a significant amount of results. Between the 1st of December and the 29th of December, in particular, in Gauteng, with our 47 malls, there wasn't a single incident of crime reported over that particular period. So in a period of about a month, you had no incidences of crime reported in these particular malls in particular. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank members of the media for the support that they've also given to the South African Police Service over the festive season. And that support has been in the form of generally the dissemination of information around police work, as well as heightened levels of visibility on the side of the police that were then presented by the media to the South African public. I would then ask the Acting National Commissioner to take us through the detail of the categories of crime and how we actually actually performed over the festive season. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Minister. First, for the leadership that you continue to provide to us in the work that we are doing, but also in being there during periods like the safer festive season. operations on the ground, continuing to interact with our communities and ensuring that we deliver on our mandate. I also, before I go into the presentation, would want to express my appreciation to the leadership of the South African Police Service, the members of the service, and their families who managed over this period to support us and ensure that we deliver on the program that we were pursuing. I can't go on without remembering those of our colleagues who unfortunately had run their race and passed away, either being killed by criminals or having lost lives. Today, at the Tshwane Academy, we are hosting the memorial service of the late Major General Tokwe, who will be buried this coming Saturday. All these members contributed to the successes that we have achieved, not only during this festive season period, but with their commitment, we are able to gain some ground in the work that we are doing. The Minister have already touched on some of the issues. I'll go to in some areas. Let me not focus on the overview of the presentation, rather firstly on our operational and deployment methodology. The Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster reaffirmed its commitment to achieving outcome 3, which is all people in South Africa are and feel safe, by going beyond the call of duty to safeguard society in fighting crime during the festive season and ensuring overall stability in the country by managing all service delivery protests, the Feast Must Fall campaign, and political gatherings and protest actions. An interdepartmental approach coordinated by the National Joint Intelligence and Operational Structure was followed. Duration of our festive season operation, 1st October, and the report we are presenting is up to the 31st of December. That operation is still continuing. We looked, amongst others, at factors impacting on the festive season operations. 1, festive season shopping and entertainment. We know that far too many people go to the malls. Increased movement of large sums of money, cash demand, the driving sale of stolen goods, and increase in illegal liquor outlets, influx of visitors and tourists from inland provinces, Gauteng, Free State, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Limpopo, and Northern Cape, to coastal provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. Increased traffic volume on all national routes, movement of migrant workers across borders, targeting of women and children, including the vulnerable groups, and current campaigns, which, amongst others, as you know, during the month of October, we were still in the middle of policing the Feast Must Fall, labor disputes related to salary negotiations, and violence in mining and transport sectors. These will be some of those factors that would have been taken into consideration during our planning for the operations that were to be executed. The Minister has spoken to the 6 pillars of the operational approach, which the first one is the aggravated robberies. You will recall when we presented the crime statistics amongst the contact crimes, we raised a concern in as far as aggravated robberies are concerned, border security being the second pillar, firearms control, liquor, second-hand goods, and safety at sports and recreational events. The Pillar 4, crimes against women and children and persons with disability, the bylaw enforcement, as well as road safety enforcement. Those are the key pillars which our festive season operations were focused on. The operational characteristics, overall approach to ensure police visibility in targeted areas informed by crime and intelligence assessment. When we looked at some deployments, different types, we looked at our roadblocks, vehicle control points, patrols, stop and search, as well as specialized operations. Targeted deployment of all available personnel in conjunction with force multipliers. In this regard, we had to take some of our members deployed either at national headquarters or provincial, even at cluster level, to be on the ground. Coordinated supervised deployment of newly trained constables at malls and hotspots areas. When we graduated the new constables on the 15th of December, we did say that they are going to be an addition to the capacity in policing our country during the festive season, and they have done exceptionally very well. Focus on hotspots informed by crime threat and intelligence analysis. Deployment approach varied from province to province. Like I've mentioned, the coastal provinces will have had more people than normal, and therefore their approach will have differed from the inland provinces. Focused on vulnerabilities such as high numbers of people, high volumes of traffic, infrastructure. We also looked at the tracing of wanted suspects, intelligence-driven operations. During this festive season, we also deployed senior managers to provinces to oversee the operations. The deputy national commissioners, the regional commissioners, as well as the divisional commissioners, including other senior managers from national headquarters, as well as the provincial offices, were deployed to be on the ground. And for that, we are very grateful for their contribution. Deployment of head office personnel, which I've spoken to. We deemed it fit to place the public order police operational members on leave. You will know that they went through a very difficult period in policing the Fees Must Fall, and we thought that while we would have loved to have them with us during the festive season, it was important that we give them the well-deserved break in preparation for what may be coming during this month going forward. The minister spoke to the deployment. Those newly appointed constables, 4,953 of them were deployed. And unfortunately, as police, we are also human. At the end of their tour of duty on the 3rd of January, one of them in Limpopo, while traveling home, was involved in a tragic car accident, and he passed on. Before you are the numbers in terms of what the breakdown was in the province of those newly appointed constables. In Gauteng, 1,519, the Western Cape, 1,065, KwaZulu-Natal, 753, Eastern Cape, 575, Mpumalanga, 427, the Northern Cape had 346, Limpopo, 113, Free State, 82, and 73 of them in the Northwest Province. Don't make a mistake and say those are the only numbers that we are deployed. Here we only speak of the newly appointed constables that were deployed. In terms of operations, before you, the slide shows from the left to the right were the highest operations, and we are grateful to General Langa and the team in KwaZulu-Natal for having led us in this regard. They have conducted 1,854 roadblocks, 27,451 VCPs, those are the crime prevention operations, patrols, 155,129, stop and search, 66,909. Now, the list goes on as to what each province did during the period that we are talking to. In terms of searches, 2,443,886 searches were conducted. Mpumalanga leading with having searched 402,861 persons that were searched. Vehicle search 145,906, and they have searched about 1,370 premises. The breakdown is before you as to what each province did. Total operational police activities, we are showing there the police actions as in blue depicted, and the searches green, and there's a breakdown of each province. So you will note from this map that we were all over in each and every province. When you look at Gauteng, 37,550, and the searches 266,487. Limpopo 51,527, 333, 454 searches conducted. 30,629 Mpumalanga, 550,137, and KwaZulu-Natal 251,343, and they have conducted 355,321 searches, and the numbers are there for you to view. And this information, the presentation itself, will be made visible to all of you. Arrests.
Well, that's where we have to leave it as we're coming towards the end of the day's work here on the Newsroom show. Of course, before we go, I've got Jody Hendricks, one of the most trusted voices in sport in South Africa, with me to wrap up today's show by talking about the Proteas and a little bit of the politics that's been going on. There's a lot been going on with the Proteas behind the scenes of late.
Yeah, and as usual in South Africa, Jibin, the off-the-field matters seem to make the headlines more than what's actually happened. On the field, a lot of people forget that South Africa, or the Proteas, have actually clinched the series 2-0 already, and this is, of course, the third and final test.
Yeah, and we just beat the Aussies before that, which is massive. But let's just take the live pictures. I want to give you an update quickly of what's happening at the Wanderers. It has, well, we've made a really positive start, got to 45, but then double blow to South Africa as, well, Kumara got a wicket and also Angelo Matthews got Stephen Cook at LBW. So the score now 51 without loss. But it's all about Hashim Amla now, isn't it, Jody?
Yeah, the man playing in his 100th test. I can remember when he made his debut in 2004. Obviously, a lot of criticism against him, Eben. He's walked a long way since then and established himself not only as one of the best batsmen in South Africa, but also in the world. He averages almost 50, I think, in the region of 48. And that's the kind of guy you want coming in at number 3 or 4.
Absolutely, your best player at number 3, but his stature in the game is much more than just cricket. He's a world figure now. We saw some tweets yesterday from someone like Sonny Bill Williams who say we all look up to Hashim. He set such a wonderful example. Yep. So he's become much more than just a cricket player in a global sense.
Yeah, also Michael Clarke, the former Australian cricketer, said that Hashim was probably one of the most difficult guys to captain against. Also a former teammate of his, Kevin Peterson, said that Hashim was always shown potential, and he's glad that he fulfilled that potential by playing in his 100th test for the Proteas. A true gentleman of the game, Eben. Also one of the few gentle cricketers around. I think that if he gets a nick and the bowler says, or the fielder says, I caught you, he'll walk, irrespective of what the umpire says, and that's one of the trademarks that he has.
Yeah, there are few cricketers around the world that walk today. Hashim is one of those. Of course, cricketers always tell you that the umpires are there to give them out. But just to wrap up with Hashim Amla, suddenly he finds himself in the thick of it. He's a little bit out of form lately. He just can't seem to get going at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been struggling. I think the past 2 series, I think the last time he made a valuable contribution to the South African scorecard was probably against New Zealand a couple of months ago. But he's a class player, Eben. I think, if they stick it out with him, it's only a matter of time before he scores a big one, and hopefully he'll be able to do it now today in his 100th test for the Proteas.
Absolutely, 100 games. What a wonderful achievement. To Hashim Amla. He's at the wicket now with JP Duminian, and JP's another one that polarizes opinion. He's a big match player. He always seems to play, he always come to the fore in the big games, but in games like this, it seems as if he sometimes loses a little bit of concentration. Yeah. Is it unfair on JP that there's always this level of scrutiny on him?
I think, when you're playing international cricket, you've got to perform. It's no use coming in a big game and then scoring a massive 100, and then against smaller teams, you go out for 20 or 30 runs. You've got to perform consistently, and I think that's the one criticism that we can put against JP, is that he's not always been performing consistently. And if you don't do that, there'll be calls for you. There's a lot of youngsters coming through who want an opportunity to play international cricket. But we all know, like Hashim, that JP is also a class player, and hopefully also can get some runs today. Unfortunately, Cook and Elgar couldn't do it, and now these two at the crease probably can stay there for about another couple of hours.
JP's role has changed a little bit in the team now with Faf taking over as captain. He seems the two of them have a wonderful relationship. They're very close, and he's almost given JP a mantle of vice captain in this role, if unofficial almost, in the scheme. And JP seems to be responding quite positively to this.
He's captain South Africa in a couple of one-days. He's one of the senior men in the team, and captain is also just as strong as the experience around him. And JP, obviously, one of the more experienced guys in the team. You spoke about his role. About 2 seasons ago, I called for him to be the official all-rounder in the team. Unfortunately, they've opted to keep him as a batsman and as a part-time bowler. I think he had a lot of potential back then, but now, we're talking about batting. It looks like he's struggling a bit on that green wicket, or is Hashim struggling on the green wicket?
I think anyone will struggle on the Wanderers today with a new ball.
So JP, I think he can be an asset to the team. He just needs to score more runs consistently, Eben.
So there you have South Africa 51 for 2. Of course, that's on the field of play. Let's talk about what's happening off the field of play. It's been a heavy politicized couple of weeks. A lot been going on social media. I know you've been on holiday and you've been relaxed and away from it, but this is the first time you can give us your views on Kolpak, on Kyle Abbott, on Riley Rousseau, and the likes of others who have left.
A lot of things have been said about patriotism, about being a traitor, being a hero. What transformation being to blame. For me, it comes down to one thing, even money. They're being offered a lot of money to go and play in England, and as South African, unfortunately, the Rand's not doing too well, so our franchises can't match that. And I don't blame a guy if he decides to go and play overseas, but just be honest and say it's about money, and that's exactly what Kyle Abbott did. Riley Rousseau, he's another matter. I think he disappointed Russell Domingo a bit, and with the way that he decided to go, that Russell's famous quote about, when he's got 5 noughts, we stuck with him.
He's always been a very difficult character, even within the team. The guys within the team have always found him a little bit prickly and maybe a little bit difficult to communicate with. But I want to ask you specifically about the noise that we've been hearing in the background from ex-players around the Kolpak thing, the Simcoxes and the likes who've come up and said, oh yeah, they back these guys, they should go. but there should be the right circumstances. You can't lose a player like Kyle Abbott. I understand he's 30 years old and he's looking for some security, but you're a starter in the international side, in the test side, probably in all three formats. Yeah. There should be a consideration of loyalty, shouldn't there?
That's a difficult question. You know, you said we need to take the factors into consideration, and Carl, he's not a starter. You know, I think if Dale Steyn was fit, I don't think even Carl Abbott would have started the 2 tests against Sri Lanka.
Will Dale Steyn ever be fit again? Is the question we have to ask. Yeah. You know, we're banking on this Dale Steyn thing, but the reality is that, you know, Dale has broken down quite a bit, and the injury that he's got, it's highly unlikely that it'll ever be the same again.
And he's also on the wrong side of 30. But just to come back to Kyle Abbott quickly and make the comparison, Kyle Abbott, you know, since his debut, has played 7 tests for the Proteas. Kagiso Rabada, on the other hand, when he got his opportunity, he outperformed Abbott. So it's, you know, if you look at merit, Rabada was the better performer. But for Kyle Abbott to be loyal to South African cricket, he only got a contract 2 years ago. You know, before that he was there or thereabout, but never quite made it. But loyalty, even money talks. It's professional sport at the end of the day.
I get it, but you know, at some point, if you start in all 3 formats and you're one of the premier bowlers, surely there should be some other considerations. But I don't want to racialize this. But why is it that only the white players are embroiled in this, and only the white former players are backing them?
You know, the Cricket South Africa has been quite open about their transformation policy. I think all the players in the national team know where they stand, and when it comes to selection, maybe that's a consideration for them. They don't see a future in South African cricket with all the transformation talk and, you know, quotas, the so-called quotas that's been mentioned by Cricket South Africa, and that's why they're deciding to head overseas and, you know, make a bit more money, but also secure a future for them, because they don't see a future for them in South African cricket. That's just my opinion.
Well, as they say, if one steps out of the breach, there are 10 others to step in. Wayne Parnell is in the side now. I see Dwayne Willifeary has also been given a debut. 4 seamers at the Wanderers. I'm always against 4 seamers at the Wanderers because we've always lost the games at the Wanderers where we play with 4 seamers, and I'm hoping that this will not be a case once again. What do you?
I was actually surprised. I thought that Maharaj would stay in, and, you know, as a spinner, obviously the wicket is not going to be very spinner friendly, but, you know, just to hold up and end, you know, to give the 3 other seamers you know, time to alternate, but they've gone for the 4 seamers. It's going to be interesting to see. He's a youngster with a lot of potential. He should probably, you know, get a good outing today, and that will secure a place for him going forward, because like we know now that there are places up for grabs in the national team with players leaving and players being injured.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of new faces coming to the T20 side. That'll be interesting next week. But the guy I want to talk about is Wayne Parnell, because there's no doubt that he's got the talent. The question mark over him has always been about his commitment to training, his commitment to the game. He's newly married now. He's back in the test side. Do you think this is the time where we're going to see the real Wayne Parnell, the mature Wayne Parnell, step forward and be the world-class performer that we know he should be?
You said he's a talented guy, and I've been waiting for the real Wayne Parnell probably 5 years to make an impact in international cricket. He's been there in and out of the team. He hasn't, you know, consistency also counted against him. He hasn't been consistent when he got the opportunity, and that's why other guys came through. This is probably, you know, a second life for him when it comes to international cricket, and also the test team. You know, I can understand his inclusion in T20 and the one-day setup, but also he's very inexperienced when it comes to test cricket. Hopefully this could be an opportunity. 2017 could be the year that he cements his place in the team and build, you know, show that talent that we all know that he has, and make a name for him at the international cricket.
I've spoken to some former selectors and former players about Wayne Parnell, because I'm very interested in him, because I rate him so much. Is that, what's the word on the street now? Before they used to say about Wayne Parnell that he didn't really like to get out of the hotel rooms to go and change. He liked to watch a lot of TV. Has all of that changed now that he's married?
I don't know. You know, I'm not married, so I can't speak for him. But you know, your commitment at international cricket that's obviously one of the things that will get you in the team. And if your teammates are unhappy with you, I don't think you'll have a career as an international cricketer. You know, we should probably judge him on what he does on the field, and, you know, what he does with this opportunity. If that kind of thing makes the headlines again and not him scoring hundreds or taking wickets, then, you know, we can't justify his inclusion in the team.
In conclusion, what do you make of the Sri Lanka side? And what do you think of the Proteas performance up until now in this particular series?
I've actually been a bit disappointed by the Sri Lankans. I thought, you know, I expected more from them. They came here full of hope. They had a tour of Zimbabwe before they came here where they got a couple of good results. On the other hand, the Proteas, I think it's going to take a really good team to beat this test team at the moment. I still have my question marks about the T20 and one-day team, but the test team is probably for me the best one where players are, you know, literally fighting for their place. So when maybe the Villiers come back in a couple of months, you know, who you're going to leave out? That's the kind of headache that I'm sure Russell Domingo would want to have. But, you know, I think 2-0 with the third test on the way at the moment. Their one's going to say a lot. It depends if Sri Lanka can take a couple of more wickets or how much runs South Africa can score to make it 3-0.
Well, Jody, thank you very much. I hope that you're right, and I hope that the weather stays good here in Johannesburg because we've got rain predicted for the weekend. But thank you to Jody Hendricks for coming in and giving us his considered views on, well, all of South Africa's teams. Oh, teams, really. I was going to ask him a little bit more about other stuff, but we'll leave the rugby for later in the year because the less said about that, the better. Now, let's move to golf. The SA Open, teed off this morning at Glendower. That's here in Johannesburg, the Glendower golf course in Edenvale, actually. That's on the East Rand here in Johannesburg. If we can take a look at the leaderboard right now. Now, Trevor Fisher Jr. has been lighting it up there. He is 6 under par after, completed 6 under par, 66. Also up there, Thomas Aiken, he shot 67. And Rory McIlroy, well, he's been fighting really hard. He dropped a couple of shots in the back now, but he's fought back with birdies, it looked like, at 15 and 16. He's 5 under par right now. Dean Burmester's there. Unfortunately, it looks as if James Compty has fallen off the pace a little bit. So the SA Open is well underway at Glendower. If you're in Joburg, you should go to have a look at Rory McIlroy, if that's the only thing you do this weekend. Really one of the superstars from the world of golf. That's a quick look at our sports. That's where we have to say goodbye on the Newsroom show. Thanks to Jody for being with us here late in the day to give us his views. Time now to get a full weather report with Phil Hawkins. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at that weather. First of all, let's take a look at our rainfall for today. And of course, we're expecting a lot of it, especially throughout the Mozambican far northeastern coastlines. That extends into parts of Zambia, parts of Malawi as well. Widespread showers and thunder showers forecast for these areas. Here in South Africa, we're also expecting showers and thunder showers. Of course, this is mainly over the central interior. They're moving towards the eastern interior as well. And in fact, the South African Weather Service has issued a weather watch, and that's for severe thunderstorms over the interior of KZN. So some thunderstorms coming in there. You're going to have to watch out, especially if you're on the roads. By tomorrow, we're going to see that continuing. We're going to still see showers and thunder showers in South Africa's northeastern interior there. High pressure systems coming in, though, are going to mitigate the effects of these low pressure systems, at least towards its southwest. We should see a clear day there. Continuing showers and thunder showers all the way throughout Southern Africa's central regions and Central Africa's southern regions. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail what's going on here. Uppington peaks at 35 degrees. You can see the rainfall continuing all the way through that central region of the country, at least isolated showers here all the way towards PE, 25 degrees Celsius there. Warm temperatures throughout most of the country for today, despite some low pressure systems coming in. And as we said, widespread showers and thunder showers coming in towards that northeastern coastline of Mozambique. And of course, that comes over Harare as well, 25 degrees Celsius here. So not particularly warm. And that's largely the result of that rainfall and largely the result of dense cloud cover in the area as well. Windhoek peaks in the high 20s and early 30s. Moving north, we're going to see that continuing. Warm temperatures in Luanda, 29 degrees, and moving north again, seeing showers and thunder showers dominant over the area. But we're not seeing those showers making it towards the northern parts here, just north of Lilongwe, towards Dar es Salaam and the surrounding areas. Really not much rainfall, if any whatsoever. In fact, even cloud cover here is absent. Seeing Juba at 38 degrees, Kampala 26. And of course, here we move into the northern hemisphere. This is where we're seeing winter. And winter temperatures are going to come in, of course. We'll take a look at that in a second. First of all, high pressure systems interacting with the low pressure systems here. Going to cause a little bit of cloud cover and possibly a little bit of rain in the interior of Algeria. But Going to see largely clear conditions for the most part coming in there. As that high pressure system intensifies, it will get rid of this rainfall here in Algeria, though we're going to see a clear day into tomorrow. Showers and thunder showers continuing over some parts of West Africa too. In the northeast, well, here's what we're seeing. Luxor peaks at 25 degrees. Temperatures not particularly warm over the northern coastlines here, of course, in the higher teens. And this, of course, is the result of those low pressure systems. Winter conditions and winter temperatures definitely to be expected for today as well as tomorrow. And well, the rest of the winter season, really. 15 degrees in Tunis, no rainfall there. And as we said, no rainfall along the coastlines as yet. And that's the result of that high pressure system towards the southern coastlines of West Africa. Abidjan peaks at about 30 degrees. Those southern coastlines expecting at least isolated showers for the most part. This is where we're going to leave your weather for now. But don't hesitate to contact us at weather@sabc.co.za. Otherwise, give us a call. 011 714 5077 is the number. That's where we leave it for now. Have yourself a great day.